1. Horror experience of Reddit netizens. My Uncle Matt never existed. Source: Facebook Cool Little Tweet Gallery. Over the past few months, my family and I have experienced a rather bizarre event that is hard to put into words what actually happened. I can only start when everything starts to go wrong. A few months ago, there was a big gathering in our family. My mother and father each had 2 sisters/brothers, both of whom were married and had children, except for Uncle Matt, who never married and had no children, so I had a total of 10 cousins/cousins. My aunt and uncle both lived 2 hours away from our house, so we grew up living together. That being said, it wasn't often that we could get all of our relatives together, and this time it was a very lucky occasion that all of them were free, so we had a family dinner for all of us. I'm not going to include the names of all family members in this post, because that would be too verbose, and I've already made it clear what I need to know. Well, that's the end of the fragmented thoughts. Let's talk about what happened that strange night. My mom and dad and I went to Aunt Margot and Uncle Ken's house to have a barbecue in the backyard. That night, the backyard was noisy, and I tried to avoid the crowd, just trying to get through the night. To be honest, I'm just here to mix up something delicious. We all sat around a large table in the open air. I was so focused on the napkins that I didn't pay any attention to the conversation because I was afraid that they would be blown away by the wind. Aunt Margot walked over with a plate of hot dogs with toasted paste. My mom laughed when she saw them. Frying the kitchen is genetically inherited, why do you always burn things? The Miller family shouldn't have let the Jensen family into the kitchen. My mom scoffed. Uncle Ken looked at her suspiciously. Liz, what are you talking about? I said, Margot doesn't bake hot dogs, and Matt always bakes things. Remember when we banned him from cooking for a few months? Just because he wanted to cook, we ate 3 takeout meals in a row. Thinking back to the past, everyone at the dinner table laughed, and began to talk about those interesting things one by one. At this point, my dad spoke up to defend Aunt Margot. What do you say, my dear? Matt is your brother, and I don't need to remind you. My mom rolled her eyes at him. That's when I interjected, because I suddenly couldn't figure out which side of Uncle Matt's relatives were. You might think I should have known, but all my aunts and uncles get along like sisters/brothers and refer to each other as sisters/brothers. My grandmother and father always referred to their daughters-in-law and sons-in-law as children, so I didn't usually distinguish them that clearly. Wait a minute, I'm confused. Where is Uncle Matt? Are you guys telling jokes? I didn't understand. I asked, but all I got was laughter from the adults. Don't be silly, baby, Matt is your dad's brother. My mom said. With her words, half of the people present were confused. Liz, what are you talking about? He's from your side. His surname is Miller. Aunt Margot said, still busy scraping off the mushy edges of the hot dog. Well, now I'm standing Amanda, and I don't understand the joke. My mom frowned and glanced around the crowd. Wait a minute, everyone be quiet. Aunt June said that this was probably the first time she had opened her mouth to speak tonight. That's stupid, Matt isn't Liz and my brother. He must be from the Jensen family. I sat at the table and watched the silence of the family. They stopped laughing, their eyes scanning back and forth, scratching their heads in anguish. A few minutes later, my mom pulled out her phone. She found an old childhood photo of her, my grandparents, Uncle Paul, and Aunt June, and there was nothing out of the ordinary. After looking at the photos, Aunt Margot also took out her mobile phone and flipped through the photo book. Aha! Got it. She proudly showed the photo on her phone, which was also a normal group photo, with my grandmother, my dad, Aunt Margot, and Aunt Susan. For the next hour, the families on both sides showed their photos back and forth, and none of them featured Matt in the group photo. A couple of my sisters and brothers were here too, but they lost all interest in other things when they started eating. I'm different, and I'm anxious to find out where Uncle Matt came from. They continued to discuss, speculating that Matt might not belong on either side, that he might just be the spouse of a family member, or some distant relative. I call him Uncle Matt just because it's more convenient to call him that way. Anyone has such relatives, right? You might be thinking that the easiest way to do this is to call Matt. That's what I wanted to say, but he was working, and none of them wanted to bother him. However, I was too eager to know the answer, so I decided to call him myself. And when I checked my phone, I couldn't find his number in the address book. I looked for it several times. I remember texting him the other day, and he should have been in the text log. Or not. Noticing that his contact information had mysteriously disappeared, I exclaimed, whoever calls him, don't care if he's at work anymore. No one agreed. But when I told them I couldn't find Matt's number on my phone, they were all curious to check their phones. We were shocked to find that Matt had disappeared from everyone's phones. Everyone began to rummage through photo albums and any digital materials, trying to find Matt's picture. But it soon became clear that everyone remembered Matt differently. Uncle Andrew remembers that he had a picture of Matt's back, and he showed a picture of a tall, bald man. Aunt June said there was something wrong with him, and she remembered Matt having long, curly red hair. It's not that we haven't seen Matt in so long that our memories are blurry. I saw him last week, he came to our house to help me with my homework, and I can say with certainty that he is not red-haired or bald. He is. Belch. It's a bit short. When I thought about it, I couldn't remember what he looked like. We were all scared. The sun was setting, the air was getting cooler, and everyone moved back inside. Normally, this is when we should go back to our respective homes, but I saw Aunt Margot start making coffee. It's going to be a long night tonight, and there's tension in the air. Adults don't want to go home until they find the answer. The adults want to talk a little bit more, but they don't want the kids to worry. My eldest sister, Maddie, didn't care about this, she just wanted to go to bed, so we persuaded her to take her 3 siblings to sleep in the basement. But not including me, the adults invited me to join the discussion because I knew Uncle Matt well and saw each other a lot. Why can't I find even a trace of his existence? After the juniors went downstairs, the adults gathered around a large whiteboard in the kitchen and wrote down everything they remembered. Matt's appearance, the last time I saw him, memories of him, etc. These memories are unrelated. In everyone's own impression, he seems to be a completely different person. This is true even in events in which several people are involved. We all agreed that the Jensen family had always thought he was from the Miller family, and the Miller family had thought he was from the Jensen family. My mom recalls a time when Matt and my dad went fishing together in a lake, and the hook hooked Matt's hat and hooked it off. My dad said he remembered my mom telling him the same thing many times, *i.e. my mom and Matt went fishing. Everyone has memories of Matt coming from the other's family. Soon, people started calling their new family members to tell them about the situation and ask what they thought. My aunts and uncles were on the phone talking to relatives I had never heard of and who might have only met Matt once or twice. They walked into one dead end after another, no one knew where he came from and where he went. So the big question now is who Matt really is. Is he just a stranger who has blended into our extended family? He pretended to be from the other side of the family in front of everyone? Maybe it's worse than that? As the sun rises on Saturday morning, we're still scratching our ears and cheeks. The more we dig into Matt's origins, the more uneasy we feel, the farther away from the truth, and the more Matt seems unreal. We could not find any evidence that he ever existed. Some people searched the internet for Matt Jensen, others searched for Matt Miller, and of course, we didn't even know what he looked like, so it was even more difficult to find him. After a few hours of discussion, we made a list of Uncle Matt's traits. He's a man, he's never had a beard, he's tall, he's not good at math, and he likes to watch Jim Carrey's movies. It may seem like a random combination of elements, but it is. We can't even remember where his home was. Some people forget completely, and others remember addresses that don't match each other. It doesn't matter, we're not going to go to the person who probably never existed anyway. We begin to realize that as soon as we start searching in our memories for who he is, he begins to blur. It's as if his consciousness is undergoing some sort of self-destructive program. Around 9 a.m., everyone took a nap on the couch. The night before, everyone was still convinced that we couldn't find Uncle Matt, but we didn't, and we were exhausted. At 11 o'clock, we were all woken up by the commotion of the next room. Everyone rubbed their eyes and sat up, confirming whether it was a nightmare or a fact last night for a long time, and then slowly woke up from the chaos. Aunt Margot yawned and went to the kitchen to find food for the children, only to find that all the cookies she had stockpiled had been taken. While the adults were talking in whispers, we heard Cass's cousin's words, which froze everyone. Yes, I remember Uncle Matt brought us so many cookies last night. It's so much fun. Wait a minute, Cass, come over here and say it again. Uncle Andrew shouted, trying to sound majestic enough, but his voice was out of tune. Cass walked over with a confused expression, like an innocent puppy who had been disciplined. Uncle Andrew, what did I do wrong? I thought Uncle Matt would give us cookies and I could eat them. Cass, you didn't do anything wrong. This is an important matter. You mean Uncle Matt was with you last night? Uncle Andrew said as gently as he could, so as not to frighten Cass. It wasn't all night, he got us a lot of cookies and a movie, and he said he wanted to go upstairs and stay with you. Cass whispered. Everyone was frantically searching the room for evidence that he was here last night. We quickly asked the other kids if they had seen Matt, and some said yes and some said no. I counted the objects in the room and found one thing, there were 10 adults with me last night, so there were 11 people in total, but I saw 12 people sleeping in the living room, 12 plates left over from eating pizza, 12 coffee cups. He was here last night. I told my findings, and my dad said he remembered seeing Matt last night, and he said Matt had brought him a glass of water. Uncle Paul says he saw Matt go to the bathroom, but doesn't remember seeing him come out. They said it felt like Matt had forcibly implanted memories in their minds that didn't actually happen. Otherwise, how could they watch Matt dangling right under their noses without realizing it? A sense of foreboding rose in my heart, which made me restless. Wait a minute, there's something wrong. I exclaimed, everybody is lined up against the wall, and I'm going to test something. They all looked at me suspiciously. Normally, adults would not allow me to direct them like this, but at the moment they are tired and at a loss. All the adults stood in line, and I walked over one by one, counting loudly. Something strange happened, and I counted 12 people. The kids weren't in line, and I didn't count myself wrongly twice. There's one more person here. Uncle Matt wasn't just here last night, he's among us right now. The others tried to count as well, and we counted over and over again, and even added a child and tried again, and each time there would be more than one person, but we still couldn't see him. How did he get hidden in plain sight? That afternoon, everyone finally left Aunt Margot's house. We are still horrified by this whole thing, but what can be done? Nothing can be done. Uncle Matt never did anything to threaten us, and most of his behavior was ordinary, except for a few weird things. One man remembers seeing him in the kitchen for hours, stacking and stacking bowls on top of each other. Another person remembers one time when he was packing his bags for a vacation, but only garbage bags were stuffed in the box. I have a memory of sitting in front of a campfire and he reading the blender's instructions to us as a bedtime story. At first, these things in memory were at least harmless. After a few weeks, we began to remember something that was becoming more and more disturbing. He showed up at our house in the middle of the night, he bought hammers for us as Christmas presents, he once bought hundreds of dollars of knives and put them in my dad's car. As these terrifying memories surfaced, we tried to call the police. Of course, they couldn't find any evidence of his existence so they couldn't help us. Moreover, we can't even say anything about his last name, and the case is even more difficult to handle. There are no physical features, only a name called Matt. How can the police find someone based on such information? So who the hell is Uncle Matt? I say with 100% certainty that I have no clue. Is he a person? Is he an entity? Did he come from our imagination? Or is he nothing? I do not know. He seems to be there at our family dinners all the time, because most of the time, there is always one more person in my count. He's like a virus, always implanting memories of him into moments he didn't have. Now it's a joke in our family, and we always keep an extra plate for Matt or something. It seems to me that no one is taking this seriously. I know he's never really hurt anyone, but why wait until something happens? I swear, every time he shows up, I feel the cold hairs on the back of my neck stand upside down. My family has given up on Matt now, and it seems like they've forgotten all those ominous memories of him. But I didn't. The deeper I digged, the more distorted those memories became, as if they were corrupting and collapsing in my memories, and I could only watch them dry. I began to feel that it was him trying to stop me from finding him. Why did he run away? Why is he afraid of being found by me? What would have happened if I had found him? I'll find you, Uncle Matt. I'll figure out what the hell you are. 2. Panbowen Incident. Source, Daily Headlines. On Thursday, April 25, 2013, I will never forget that day and that classmate who only exists in my memory, Panbowen. Not many people would believe what I wrote, including my family and friends, who said that I was stimulated by the pressure of studying, and even doubted that I was doing well, so that I spent a period of time after the college entrance examination in deep doubt about reality. I am a native of Tangwu, Tianjin, grew up by the Haihe River, and am currently engaged in operation and maintenance in an internet company in Shanghai as a Shanghai drifter, living a 995 and boring life. Today, August 18th, happens to be Panbowen's birthday in my memory, so I'm going to talk about it. My high school is in Tangwu Middle School, famous for quality education. The competition in the Tianjin College entrance examination is not too fierce, so we don't have too much pressure in the third year of high school. There are 43 days before the college entrance examination. The fourth class in the morning is the last physical education class of the third year of high school, and the class schedule will be adjusted after the May Day holiday. Our PE classes are walk-in classes, and everyone can choose programs such as basketball, yoga, martial arts, etc., so they will meet other students in their own projects. My project is badminton, and my teacher's surname is Kim, who is the most comfortable with his students, knows Japanese and photography, and is a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! On that day, Mr. Jin said a few goodbye words to us, and recorded a video of cheering for the college entrance examination, so that we disbanded the free activities. Some girls choose to go back to the classroom to review, and some stay with badminton rackets to play. After all, it is not easy to encounter such a busy time in the third year of high school. I also brought a badminton racket, and I was going to have a game with my classmate Xiao Wen, and if I could go back to that day, I would definitely give myself a hard beating, and then go back to the classroom to study on my own. At first, we played on the corridor, and within 10 minutes we felt too sunny, so we were ready to find a shade to continue playing, and then we walked to the front of the dormitory building. The dormitory building and the cafeteria are connected together, and there has been no one living for a long time since the full-day school, and Mr. L and Pan Bowen from class 10 are playing in the shade of the dormitory hallway. Pan Bowen is my junior high school classmate. Junior high school is in class 3, and they are all English class representatives. Mr. L is the one Pan Bowen introduced us to know. We had a brief chat, and then my classmate Xiao Wen and I played, and Mr. L and Bowen continued to fight. Later, Xiao Wen thought that I was too strong, so I played with Bowen, and L Jun and Xiao Wen fought. Later, Bowen knocked the badminton ball crookedly, and the ball fell crookedly into the ventilation window in the basement of the dormitory, mainly because I bought a professional ball for YNEX, and one ball was worth my lunch in the morning, and I made a decision that I still regret, to pick up the ball. To pick up the ball, you first have to go into the dormitory building. We didn't have much hope at first, but the ghost made the door of the building not locked that day, usually sealed with locks. With a push on the hand, a cool breeze and moldy smell came to the face. Pan Bowen offered to pick up the ball. I also agreed to go in. El Jun was better to follow along, and finally left Xiao Wen to show us the racket. Push the door into a wall. The wall is written accommodation regulations. The payment is 03 years. To the left is the dormitory on the first floor, our old-fashioned wooden doors, hidden. At the end was a washroom, filled with an ammonia-like smell, and the stairwell was in a dark corner. Entering the stairwell, it was not very dark inside, and the midday sun was just right to shine in. I told them that I would not pick it up. El Jun told me that he was coming. He was relatively thin, his body was light, and he turned over directly, and I went around with it, and by the way, I pulled the handle for Pan, and we walked down the cement stairs without guardrails, piling up a lot of things, and it took about a quarter of an hour. Halfway down is a concrete platform. I can't forget what it is. I remember that there is a way down the basement floor, but it is sealed by several locks, and the periphery is a hall, and there is a small open door connected to the corridor, and there is a bright light at the end of the door. We were about to go forward. Pan Bowen suddenly said that his key had fallen on the stairs and was going back to get it, and I found that there was a bright light that should be on the sunny side of the basement, so I entered the small door with Mr. L. El Jun was a little scared. I told him that I brought my mobile phone, and showed him that my Xiaomi Mi 2 still had a 3G signal in the basement. Because I'm the president of the school's Mensa club, this club is gone. I came to the school last summer, and I have the phone number of Uncle Z from the doorman's office, and my second uncle is a comrade in arms of the W team, so I can still call people if I am really trapped. It's a big deal to get 2 fault sheets. Our school was found to have 1 mobile phone with 3 smoking, 3 fault sheets accumulated and went home to reflect on one day, and 5 got 1 into the file. El Jun went in with me. I didn't know what was going on inside the door. The light was in front, but there was no sense of direction, and there was no way to retreat. Anyway, this was not the place where we dropped the ball. We turned, and the underground parking lot was as empty. I was not afraid at the time. I felt the blood surged, and El Jun said to run towards the light. We didn't know how to run over. The end was the stairs. I remember we saw the bright light and even rolled and climbed up. We came out of the hallway of the elementary school opposite the back door of the school, and the moment we got outside, Mr. L and I couldn't care about anything, gasping for air. Next to it was a group of elementary school students leaving the school gate, and now it was supposed to be noon after school, so we went out with the flow of students and parents, and we didn't even bother to buy lunch, and went straight back to school through the back door. When I entered the class and saw Xiao Wen, he said that he saw that I and Mr. L didn't come out, so he took my racket back to class directly, and I asked him what about Pan Bowen's racket. Li Ning's is also quite expensive. He said with a puzzled look, who is Pan Bowen? I said that it was the 10th class who played with us, and then argued for a while. He insisted that he didn't know Pan Bowen, and I didn't get it. After the afternoon self-study, I went to class 10 to look for Pan Bowen, and I met Mr. L head-on. He blushed and talked to me excitedly, especially loud and screaming, so that the people in the corridor looked at us. I said what the hell was wrong. He yelled at me that Pan Bowen disappeared. My heart chuckled, and said that he wouldn't fall in it. El Jun burst into tears at that time, saying that they didn't recognize Pan Bowen anymore, saying that El Jun was neurotic. Then the head of the grade group, Mr. X, happened to be passing by, thinking that the two of us had a quarrel, and came over to make peace. Class 10 kept coming out of people saying that Mr. L was stimulated and might have suffered from heat stroke. I asked a girl passing by where Pan Bowen was. She told me that Mr. L came back at noon and kept saying that there was a person named Pan Bowen, but there was no such person in class 10. I don't know what the hell is going on. I hurriedly went downstairs to the dormitory, but the door of the dormitory was locked as usual. I was right there and my head was buzzing. The first session in the afternoon was chemistry, and I forgot what the teacher said, but I remember that I didn't listen to a word, and I went to find Mr. Jin after the first class, but there was no name in the column of class 10, and I asked him who Pan Bowen was. I don't want to describe how I spent that afternoon, but Wen insisted on ignoring me all afternoon. During the evening self-study, I heard the head teacher, a middle-aged male Chinese teacher, say that there was a person in class 10 who was under too much pressure for the college entrance examination, and was picked up by his parents for talking nonsense. On the way home at night I wanted to look at the phone to log on QQ, but I found that the phone was inexplicably out of battery. According to common sense, the battery life of any mobile phone is not so bad. When I got home, I opened the computer for the first time. It turned out that Jun was kicked out of the grade group. Information: he seems to have sent more than 100 messages about Pan Bo and also replied to me 99 plus. I trembled and searched for Pan Boen, but without this friend, I was almost fainting at that time. My sister saw me turn on the computer and said that she wanted to use CAD, so I took the Xiaomi and went to charge it. Turn on the time display is 197011:52. I still remember that screen, but after connecting to Wi-Fi, the time is normal. QQ timeout. Religion no record. Most of the contents of the album are corrupted, except for the pictures saved by the post bar. I don't know how I spent that moment, after which this Xiaomi Mi 2 has not been able to use the camera, alarm clock and compass. After the repair, the store said that the gyroscope was damaged, the lens was fine, and the camera was able to be used after I brushed a MIUI V5 after the college entrance examination. Pan Boen is a person who doesn't exist, as if he never existed, except for me and Mr. L. Everyone thinks he doesn't exist. I still remember his student number, but when I saw the roster again, the entire class had moved forward by one place. I told me about it at dinner, and what I got was a sentence: "You don't have a fever," and then I was dragged by my sister, a master of Tianyi, to see a doctor in the Department of Psychology of the Medical University Hospital on the weekend, and I can still clearly remember that day I was received by a doctor surnamed Yang, and finally he told the family not to take it to heart. I was under a lot of pressure for the college entrance examination. My reaction after that was very bland, but I didn't dare to go to the door of class 10, and the head teacher of class 10 also came to me and told me that Mr. L was emotionally unstable, don't rush to approach him, and Mr. L's fuss to the second model also stopped. In the college entrance examination, I thought I could go to Tianyi's University, but I failed the avalanche and physics. With 120 plus language and 140 plus mathematics, Tianjin volume is simpler than the national one. Went to a 211 in the southwest. Xiaoan went to Beijing to study civil engineering. Jun fell from the level of 211 to Tianjin Institute of Technology. I lost contact in my sophomore year, only occasionally in the circle of friends to send a purchase. I heard people around him say that he was sent to Tuyo for further study. Teachers are a counterexample of his mentality explosion before the college entrance examination. Since then, before each college entrance examination, there will be a grade meeting to relax and decompress. If Pan Boen still exists, it should be at the level of C9. I remember Pan Boen's primary school, Xinggong No. 4 Primary School, and junior high school, Tenggu No. 2 Middle School. His birthday, August 18, 1996, even his family's residence, an old neighborhood in Xinggong Street, he made an appointment to play the game Isu 4, Cell Set a Sea of Trees with me after the college entrance examination. He likes Su Liang's songs, and is a fan of the TEDA team, but I just can't prove that he exists. Later, I found more places to think about it. 1. I remember that Xiaomi launched a phone with WP8, but it was not the case. 2. I remember that Star Journey 2 was launched in February 13, which was hailed as the peak of domestic animation. I didn't chase it because I had to take the college entrance examination, but now there is only one 17-year-old Storm Famara. 3. I remember that Tianjin University and Nankai University had campuses in Chinese when they were in primary school, and they were relocated in recent years. 4. I remember that the stations in the middle of Tianjin Metro Line 9 are Tenggu, North Railway Station Road, Yuanyang City, Central Village, Steel Pipe Company instead of Tenggu, Hojiewen, Zhongzi Village, Steel Pipe Company. 5. I remember I watched a sci-fi/horror movie called Lightning, which was very well received. The protagonist was called Chen Fan, and his wife was called Dai Lin. It was Wang Chuanjun and Deng Jiajia who participated, and the story was very good except for the drama they watched, but there was no such film on Dao Bancha. I'm not an internet writer or a code farmer, so there's no need to make up a story here with one of my few tirades on weekends to win favor with the public, not to mention that I haven't set foot in Tianjin for 2 years, so there's no need to write horror novels to scare a group of people I don't know. I also suspected that I had hysteria or paranoia and other mental illnesses, and in the past few years of going to college and working, I have made appointments with many psychiatrists, and I have come to the conclusion that I am under great psychological pressure, and I really wanted to be diagnosed for a while, but it backfired. I have a really good relationship with Pan Boen. The junior high school homeroom teacher's surname is Lu Jiaomath, and we are both class representatives of Mr. Su, and I am especially grateful to Mr. Su's excellent teaching ability to improve my English level. When I was in the 3rd year of junior high school, I took Pan Boen to the Zhejiang primary bus station every night to wait for 107, and then went home. Pan Boen's family lives in Bai Lunli. I went to his house during the summer vacation after the high school entrance examination, although I don't remember the house number, but I vaguely remember that there is a street sign of the Xinggong Road Brigade and a very high telephone pole. His family remembers that it is a 1-bedroom apartment, and the details are forgotten. His father should be in a state-owned enterprise, and his mother sells cosmetics in Zhongyuan department store, because she gave my sister a set of Dior makeup, so I remember it very clearly. Pan Bowen likes to play games, from The Legend of Detective Hu to Lao Roll 5, we played all over again. I also gave him a Mimi card in the second year of junior high school, and there was an elf named Hamlet on the sale back then, and he took my number. When he was in high school, he was relatively low-key, and he vaguely remembered that he didn't enter the student union, and he seemed to have participated in a football game, but he couldn't hold the specific information. When I was a freshman in high school, Pan Bowen wrote mathematics in politics class and the teacher found out, and he was taken out and counted, and he complained to me, so I still remember it deeply. He is also good at physics, often learn the teacher to speak in dialect, palm magnetic forefinger electric thumb force, borrowed me a copy of Higher and More Wonderful Physics, and his name is still in the book of competition. If I can go back to Tianjin, I will find out this book by turning over the cabinet. The deepest impression was that on the day of the Qingming Festival in 11, Pan Bowen and I went to TEDA football stadium to watch the final 1-1 draw between TEDA and Melbourne Victory. A lot of weird things happened after I came out with Mr. L that day. I remember 3 rounds of review at that time. Mathematics has elective 4-2 matrices and elective 4-6 on number theory, 4-6 Lagrangian interpolation I can't figure out. Math teacher also told me that people are stupid all their lives, you just use the binomial you don't want to divide the polynomial. As a result, the college entrance examination found that there was no number theory choice and matrix problem, and I thought that this year's distribution column change matrix routine had changed, and as a result, I came to a conclusion through various channels that only Jiangsu and Shanghai learned 4-2 in 13 years, and 4-6 is not learned anywhere in the country. In other words, it is impossible that I am mistaken, because I also used interpolation in programming later, and my colleagues all taught themselves according to GitHub, but where did I learn it? Pan Bowen is thin, wears glasses, and has relatively white skin. After so many years in my memory, I even have a vague impression of him. You can say I'm making it up, but what's the point of me making up this person? If my writing is good enough to go to the starting point to write an article, I will directly make up a Handong province of Huaxia and give the name of Long Ao Tian to start a serialization directly in Tianya Taiba. If I have no friends here, I must first construct a worldview system that cannot be contradictory, and then continue to add details in order not to show my stuffing. If I make up, why bother to introduce specific geographic information, mathematical knowledge points and even the names of cosmetics that straight men don't know very well? Pan Bowen is my friend, and whatever I write makes me feel like I'm consuming him, and sometimes I don't know if it's fear or helplessness. Since the college entrance examination, I have fallen into deep doubts about myself more than once, and writing it is like a tree hole. Today is August 24th, I went to the hospital, the doctor didn't care about the article at all, and suggested that if this matter does not affect my life, I should not pursue it. Mr. L, I don't think he wants to touch on it again. Answer, I work on Sunday, sorry I can't reply. There was a proposal to let me go to Pan Bowen's house to see, in fact, I passed by there many times after the college entrance examination, but I didn't know the specific location. As for the junior high school graduation photo, of course I flipped through it. Pan Bowen turned it over on the night he disappeared, and he couldn't be found in the group photo, and the high school graduation photo was taken at the end of May. Back then, it was popular to fill in the classmates, and his page should be in a very high position, but there was never that page. Time has diluted other emotions, and I can't restore every move I made at that time. Today is the weekend, and it is foggy and rainy outside Chuansha, and the wind is also very strong. I can't help but think of my friend Pan Bowen. I don't know where he is, or the comment section makes me suspect that he is the person I imagined in order to solve my worries. I don't want to be overly entangled. What I can still recall is that Pan Bowen's hometown moved west in Tangshan, Hebei, because he told me that the underwater Great Wall and Zifengao in his hometown are 2 more famous scenic spots. When he usually jokes, he is in tune with Zhao Lirong's Spring Festival Gala and the salesman of the Crosstalk Universe brand cigarettes. But because there are several places in Tianjin where Tangshan dialect is also spoken, I am not sure yet. As for Pan Bowen's home, I racked my brains and couldn't remember too many details. It wasn't that I deliberately concealed it, this memory has been blurry for some reason, as if something erased it. If I do make up stories, I'm going to have to write a lot about his family. The 1-bedroom and 1-hall ordinary old-fashioned community in North China basically looked the same as the buildings built back then, imitating the Soviet form. I don't get along with him from school. I live near the train station, he is near the port, but because my home is close to the school, I can send him to the station every day to talk about games. I found a lot of information in the comment area, and the alumni of elementary school, junior high school, and college have come out, but I can't go into too much detail, and there are a lot of colleagues in the company who know each other, and some people have jokingly asked if I sent this article. If the leader and HR see it, it may have an impact on my future work. 3. Reddit. Source: ChatGPT. Reddit's Chinese community is not as large as the community in other languages, but it is actually very active, especially in certain subreddits. Here are some of the more common and active Chinese communities on Reddit. Globe with Asia Australia Common Reddit Chinese Circles. r/Taiwan. It mainly focuses on Taiwan-related news, life, current affairs, and culture. Sometimes there are also discussions about travel, food, and language learning. Most people use Chinese, sometimes mixed with English. r/Chinese. Discussions ranged from Chinese language learning, culture, history, to modern social issues. The interface is mostly in English, but there are many Chinese discussion threads. It is suitable for non-native Chinese speakers, and there are also many native Chinese speakers to participate. r/China_IRL. It is more inclined to a realistic profile of China's inner life, sometimes with humor and mimetic style. Most are in Chinese simplified, but there is also some English. Contains current events, memes, social issues, and life anecdotes. r/China. Discuss China-related news and social issues, mainly in English. There are occasional Chinese discussion threads, but most of them are international. r/language_exchange. If you want to practice Chinese, or teach Chinese, here are the language exchange needs post. You can find a language partner to practice speaking, writing, or help others learn Chinese. Eyes niche but interesting Chinese circle. r/Chinese language. Topics related to Chinese linguistics, dialects, and Chinese characters. r/Sino, an in-depth discussion of China's geopolitics, history, and culture. r/Taiwan news, mainly in English, but focusing on Taiwan news and opinions. Source: Wikipedia. Reddit is an entertainment, social, and news site where registered users can post text or links, making it essentially an electronic bulletin board system. Registered users can vote on these posts, and the results will be used to rank and determine its position on the homepage or subpages. The content category on the site is called a subreddit. Subreddit content includes news, video games, movies, music, books, fitness, food, and image sharing. Reddit was founded in 2005 by Steve Huffman, known as Spez, and Alexis Vanian, known as KN0thing, who were roommates at the University of Virginia. Condé Nast acquired the site in 2006. Reddit spun off from Condé Nast in September 2011 and became a subsidiary of Condé Nast's parent company, Advanced Publishing. While Advanced Publishing is its largest shareholder, Reddit operates independently. Reddit is headquartered in San Francisco, California. In October 2014, Reddit received $50 million in a round of funding hosted by Sam Altman, including Mark Anderson, Peter Thiel, Ron Conway, Snoop Dogg, and Sheila Trudeau. Their investment valued Reddit at $500 million. In August 2018, some netizens found that Reddit was not available in Chinese mainland. It was later confirmed that Reddit was contaminated with DNS and unavailable in some areas. On March 21, 2024, Reddit made its initial public offering on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol RDDT. Reddit is currently the fifth largest website in the United States, with traffic behind Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Amazon, with 330 million monthly active users. 4. The Mandela Effect. Source: ChatGPT. The Mandela effect refers to a phenomenon of collective memory errors that occurs when a group of people collectively remember something or an event that does not match the actual situation. The name comes from the fact that many people commonly remember the death of former South African President Nelson Mandela in the 1980s, despite the fact that he did not die until 2013. Examples of the Mandela effect. Berenstain Bears. Many people remember the name of the book as Berenstain Bears, but the correct spelling is actually Berenstain Bears. This misuse also leads to speculation about whether it is from a different parallel universe. Looney Tunes vs. Looney Tunes. Many people remember this cartoon as Looney Tunes, as in the cartoon's musical tunes, but the correct name is Looney Tunes. Space for Kit Kat. Many people remember that the Kit Kat chocolate bar has a space, Kit Kat, on the logo, but in fact there is no space and the correct logo is Kit Kat. The tail of Pikachu. Many people remember that Pikachu's tail is black at one end, but in fact, Pikachu's tail is all yellow and not black. The brand name Febreze. Many people remember the name of this scent freshener brand as Febreze, with an extra E, but in fact its correct spelling is Febreze. Explanation of the Mandela effect. Memory errors or how the brain processes them. This may simply be the brain misremembering certain information, especially when people share common false memories, which can be exacerbated. Parallel universe theory. Some believe that the Mandela effect may be evidence of parallel universes, where our reality differs from certain memories or events in other universes. Social communication. When a false memory is widely shared in the community, more and more people will think that they also remember the same mistake, which will strengthen the sense of memory of the mistake. Source: Wikipedia. The Mandela effect is an urban legend or conspiracy theory in which collective memory does not correspond to historical facts. Those who support this argument believe that their lives have jumped from the original parallel universe through time and space to the current parallel universe, while opponents argue that it does not exist. Currently, the mainstream scientific community believes that this effect is a manifestation of false memory. The term Mandela effect comes from Fiona Broome, a paranormal American blogger and self-proclaimed superpower researcher in 2010, who found that she remembered that Mandela, the black leader of South Africa, should have died in prison in the 80s of the 20th century, and remembered his funeral, including the content of Mandela's widow's speech at the funeral, but the reality is that Mandela did not die in prison in the 80s of the 20th century, and was later released. Eventually, he became president of South Africa, where he remained alive in 2010 and did not die until 2013. As for the memory of Mandela's death in the 80s of the 20th century, Boumé claims that it does not exist only in her personal memory, and she finds that thousands of people share that they also have the same memories as her. Psychiatrist John Paul Garrison believes that many memories of the Mandela effect are fabricated. When people read the conspiracy theory, once fabricated existed, it appeared as if the memory had been there from beginning to end. Fiona Boumé, the founder of the Mandela effect theory, met some people who had different memories than her, and she began to guess that many people would have such memory errors. In 2012, she claimed that the real name of a children's book called Berenstain Bears was Berenstain Bears. The A became an E. 5. Collective subconscious. Source: ChatGPT. Collective unconscious is a concept proposed by psychologist Carl Jung, which refers to a subconscious structure shared by human beings, containing all human experiences, memories, and symbols, which do not come directly from individual experiences, but are shaped by the entire human history and culture. Jung believed that these common mental structures, archetypes, or patterns influence our behavior, thoughts, and emotions. The main points of the collective subconscious. Shared mental constructs. The collective subconscious is not explicitly aware of by everyone, but it exists deep within each person and influences the way we behave and think. It is the basis of the common human experience, which may stem from ancestral experiences, traditions, or cultures, or from the biology of the human being as a whole. Archetypes. Jung believed that the core structure in the collective unconscious is archetypes. These archetypes are universal emotions, symbols, or characters that reflect a shared human understanding of the world. Common archetypes include mother, love and protection, hero, courage and salvation, shadow, potential negative emotions and unaccepted parts, etc. Influencing personal experience. The collective subconscious affects an individual's perception and emotional response to the world. Despite its potential, we can often embody it through dreams, myths, art, and culture. For example, in many cultures, there is a story structure such as hero's journey, which can be seen as a manifestation of the hero's archetype in the collective subconscious. Cross-cultural commonalities. The concept of the collective unconscious also emphasizes similarities between different cultures. Even civilizations that are far removed from each other, many stories, myths, or symbols show similar structures and themes, suggesting that humans share certain common inner mental patterns. Correlation with the Mandela effect. Collective false memories in the Mandela effect can also be associated with the collective subconscious. It has been suggested that when a group of people collectively remembers something wrong, the false memory is a reflection of the collective subconscious, or it is due to some common underlying pattern in the human psyche that affects everyone's memory. Example. Mythology and religion. Different cultures will have similar myths, gods, or heroic stories, such as the creation story or the Great Flood. The recurrence of these archetypes in various cultures suggests that they come from the collective unconscious. Symbolism in dreams. Many people have similar dream situations, such as chasing, falling, flying, etc., and the symbolic expressions of these dreams may be derived from the collective subconscious. Source: Wikipedia. The collective unconscious is a concept of holistic mental architecture proposed by the Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung. Jung believed that human beings can be stratified into three levels, from shallow to deep: consciousness, ego, individual unconscious, complex, and collective unconscious, archetype, which is different from Sigmund Freud's psychological structure. The collective unconscious is the unconscious at the lowest level of the personality structure. The difference between the collective unconscious and the individual unconscious is that it is not a forgotten part, but something that we are never aware of. Jung once used the analogy of islands, and the small islands that emerge from the water are the consciousness that people can perceive. The part of the ground beneath the surface of the water, which is revealed by the ebb and flow of the tide, is the personal unconscious, and the lowest level of the island is the seabed as a base, which is our collective unconscious. 6. Parallel universe theory. Source: ChatGPT. Multiverse theory refers to the existence of multiple universes that are similar to or completely different from our universe, and these universes together form a larger cosmic structure, commonly known as multiverses or parallel universes. The concept has its roots in physics, philosophy, and science fiction, and has different theoretical foundations in disciplines such as quantum mechanics, cosmology, and string theory. The main types of parallel universe theory. Parallel universes in quantum mechanics, many-world interpretation. The many-worlds interpretation, MWI, in quantum mechanics was proposed by physicist Hugh Everett in 1957. According to this theory, quantum events, such as the decay of particles, do not have just one result, but split into different parallel universes, and each possible outcome corresponds to a different universe. For example, in a quantum experiment, if a particle has two possible outcomes, then according to the many-worlds interpretation, the universe splits into two versions, corresponding to each outcome. Parallel universes, bubble universes, in the theory of cosmic expansion. According to the inflationary cosmology, after the Big Bang, the universe expanded rapidly, and this expansion could occur at different rates in different regions, resulting in the formation of a separate bubble universe for each expansion region. Each bubble universe has its own physical constants and structures, and these universes may possess completely different properties from ours. Parallel universes in string theory and membrane universes. String theory holds that elementary particles are not point-like objects, but are made up of one-dimensional strings that can vibrate in multidimensional space. According to this theory, there may be multiple dimensions, and even in some of them, there will be other universes. There is a theory called brane world, which exists like thin films in a higher dimensional space, and different universes may exist on different membranes. Parallel universes in philosophy and science fiction. In philosophy and science fiction, a parallel universe usually refers to a type of universe with a different history or choice. In these universes, time, space, physical laws, etc., may be different from ours, or in some situations, the history of the universe may go in different directions due to certain key events. For example, a common plot in science fiction is that versions in parallel universes may have different histories or character choices, and the interactions between these universes can sometimes lead to conflict or cooperation. Potential evidence and challenges of parallel universes. Cosmic background radiation. Some theories suggest that influences from other parallel universes may have left traces in the cosmic background radiation. Cosmic background radiation is microwave radiation left over from the Big Bang, and these traces, if present, could be used to support the theory of the multiverse. Quantum force. The multi-world interpretation attempts to explain the randomness of quantum events, arguing that each quantum measurement creates a new universe, which helps explain why particles in quantum mechanics behave seemingly randomly, but are not random, but rather reflect the fragmentation of the universe. Lack of experimental evidence. There is currently no direct experimental evidence to support the parallel universe theory. The extent to which this theory is accepted by the scientific community remains controversial because its unobservability makes it difficult to verify or falsify. Philosophical and practical questions. Although the theories of parallel universes are full of scientific fascination, they also raise many philosophical questions. For example, how do we determine if the universe we live in is unique? If there are countless parallel universes, then our understanding and meaning of our own universe will be challenged. Source: Wikipedia. Multiverse, monoverse, megaverse, omniverse, parallel universe, a hypothesis that has not yet been proven in physics. It is likely that there are other universes outside of our universe that are a reaction to the possible states of the universe, and that these universes may or may not have the same fundamental physical constants as we know the universe. A common assumption is that the multiverse is a patchwork of different universes, all bound by the same laws of physics. The term multiverse was coined by the American philosopher and psychologist William James in 1895. Parallel universes are often used to illustrate that the subsequent development of a different course of events or a different decision exists in different parallel universes. This theory is also often used to explain other paradoxes, such as the paradox about time travel, such as a ball falls into a time tunnel, goes back in time and crashes into itself, thus making it impossible to enter the time tunnel. In addition to assuming that time travel is impossible, it can also be explained by parallel universes, and according to the parallel universe theory, the ball crashing into itself and not crashing into itself are two different parallel universes. 7. The cosmic sensor hypothesis. Source: ChatGPT. The cosmic censorship hypothesis is a theoretical hypothesis in physics about black holes and singularities. This hypothesis was first proposed by physicist Roger Penrose in 1969 to explain whether the universe censors itself at some extreme times, especially during the formation of black holes. Specifically, the cosmic sensor hypothesis attempts to answer the question of the singularity of black holes. Background of the cosmic inquisitors hypothesis. According to Einstein's theory of general relativity, so-called singularities occur when a star collapses into a black hole under certain extreme conditions. Singularity refers to the fact that in space and time, physical quantities, e.g., density, gravitational force, become infinite, making it impossible for our current physical theories to explain or deal with these situations. However, such a singularity is a problem in physics, as an infinitely large physical quantity usually indicates that our physical laws have failed, resulting in mathematical explanations that are no longer valid. In these cases, scientists want to avoid the singularity, or believe that the singularity should be invisible to observers, which leads to the cosmic sensor hypothesis. Main contents. The basic idea of the cosmic sensor hypothesis is that all black hole singularities should be hidden within the black hole's event horizon and therefore should not be visible to outside observers. In other words, this means that the black hole's singularity is physically cosmically censored, thus avoiding the infinite gravitational pull and unstable mathematical results it brings. Specifically, it is assumed that the structure and laws of the universe will naturally censor certain irrational situations, e.g., the existence of singularities within the event horizon, ensuring that these singularities are inaccessible or observable to the observer. In this way, the universe is able to avoid the mathematical and physical problems of the singularity, allowing our physical theories to be consistent in all observable situations. Two versions of the cosmic sensor hypothesis. The strong cosmic inquisitor hypothesizes. It is believed that all black holes avoid a bare singularity. A singularity is when the singularity is exposed to an outside observer in the absence of an event horizon. According to this hypothesis, the singularity must be covered by the event horizon of the black hole so that the observer cannot see the singularity directly. The weak version of the cosmic inquisitor hypothesizes. Think that there are situations in the universe where there may be naked singularities that may not be completely obscured. Still, these naked singularities should be a very rare occurrence. Why is the cosmic sensor hypothesis needed? Avoid infinity. Singularities represent gravitational and dense infinity, which makes our physical theories no longer valid. The cosmic sensor hypothesis states that such infinity does not occur within the observable range, thus guaranteeing the stability of the theory. Protect causality. The appearance of a naked singularity can lead to the collapse of causality. The cosmic sensor hypothesis guarantees that all causal relationships can still function effectively in the universe and will not be destroyed by singularities. Maintain consistency in physical theories. The cosmic sensor hypothesis prevents some extreme mathematical outcomes, such as infinity at the singularity, and allows physical theories to continue to apply in all situations. Related issues and challenges. Is the naked singularity real? According to current theories, it seems that a naked singularity is not allowed, which is the core content of the cosmic sensor hypothesis. However, in some exceptional cases, a naked singularity may still occur, leaving this hypothesis still in debate. Theoretical evidence. There is currently no direct experimental or observational evidence to justify the cosmic sensor hypothesis. This hypothesis is more of a theoretical construct that has not yet been directly observed or confirmed. The cosmic sensor hypothesis in black hole physics. The cosmic sensor hypothesis is very important in black hole physics, especially when it comes to discussing the process of black hole formation and singularity behavior. As the understanding of black holes and singularities deepens, this hypothesis may also be challenged or revised. In summary, the cosmic sensor hypothesis provides a possible explanation for why singularities do not seem to be directly observed in our universe, and through such a censorship mechanism, the consistency and stability of physical theories are maintained. Although there is no direct evidence for this hypothesis, it is still an important topic in black holes and cosmology. Source: Wikipedia. In general relativity, the cosmic censorship hypothesis was proposed to explain the structure of the gravitational singularity mathematically. In the solution of Einstein's field equations, there are singularities that are hidden within the event horizon and therefore cannot be observed from other parts of spacetime, as if censored to reveal the full picture. Singularities that are not hidden within the horizon are called naked singularities. The weak form of the cosmic censorship hypothesis speculates that there is no other naked singularity in the universe other than that the Big Bang is a naked singularity. This hypothesis was proposed by Roger Penrose in 1969. There is a difference between the cosmic censorship hypothesis and the so-called chronological censorship. In the latter, each closed class time curve crosses the event horizon, which may prevent the observer from observing causal violations. Since the physical behavior of the singularity is unknown, if the singularity can be observed by other parts of spacetime, then the causal relationship will break and physics may lose its ability to predict. According to the Penrose-Hawking singularity theory, the aforementioned hypothesis, the existence of a naked singularity will lead to a rupture of causality, is also inevitable due to the fact that the singularity is inevitable in cases of physical significance. Moreover, if the naked singularity did not exist, then the universe would be deterministic. It would be possible to infer the entire evolution of the universe based on the state of the universe, more precisely, the state of an empty like three-dimensional hypersurface called a Cauchy surface, only at a certain moment in time, perhaps excluding the finite space hidden in the singularity horizon. If the cosmic censorship hypothesis fails, it will lead to the failure of the certainty of the universe, because it is not yet possible to derive the space-time behavior of the universe from the causality of the singularity. The cosmic censorship hypothesis is a formal concern of the physics community, and some form of cosmological censorship hypothesis is always involved when referring to the event horizon of black holes. The censorship hypothesis was first unofficially proposed by Roger Penrose in 1969. The cosmic censorship hypothesis looks more like a research project, finding a formal description that is physically significant and can be rigorously proven or falsified. 8. Tulpa, Juba. Source, ChatGPT. Tulpa is a concept derived from Tibetan Buddhism and has been used in modern times to refer to a fantasy being created through mental or psychological techniques. The concept has a deep background in both history and modern practice, and I will explain it in detail here. Origin of Tulpa in Tibetan Buddhism. In Tibetan Buddhism, Tulpa refers to a spiritual being created by the power of the mind or meditation. It is not a physical entity, but a thinking body that is believed to possess self-awareness, independence, and even will. Such a being can be formed in meditation by concentrating mental energy or meditative techniques. The meaning of Tulpa here can be understood as manifestation or occurrence, that is, some concrete being created by a spiritual or conscious force. This does not refer to an object in the physical world, but to a phenomenon or product at the level of the mind. Modern Tulpamancy and practice. The modern term Tulpamancy or Tulpa magic is the product of further development and modernization of this ancient concept. It is a psychological technique that aims to create in the human consciousness a thinking body with independent thoughts, emotions, and even personality, known as Tulpa. This being can act like a virtual person, interacting with the creator, host, and sometimes exhibiting behavior independent of the host's consciousness. The modern Tulpamancy practitioner, commonly known as Tulpamancer, creates and cultivates such a Tulpa through meditation, visualization, conversation, emotional suggestion, and more. Their goal is for this Tulpa to become a self-aware being, separate from their primary consciousness, and able to think and feel for themselves. The presence of Tulpa can be very real, and the host may sense its presence and be able to have a conversation or interaction with it. Psychology and cultural background of Tulpa. In psychology, Tulpa's creation is seen as the result of a high degree of autosuggestion or conscious control. Many Tulpamancer believe that Tulpa is a controllable mental phenomenon, which may have certain similarities with psychological phenomena such as self-hypnosis, role-playing, imaginary friends, etc. However, the modern concept of Tulpa differs from the original meaning in Tibetan Buddhism. In Tibetan Buddhism, Tulpa is often associated with spiritual practice, wisdom ascension, etc., while in modern Tulpamancy, it is more of a tool for mental exploration or self-discovery. Culture and controversy. Some argue that modern Tulpamancy, which extracts the concept from its original religious and cultural context, may misinterpret or distort its cultural context and inappropriately reinterpret the original meaning. This has also sparked controversy about cultural respect and the appropriateness of terminology. For example, the use of the word Tulpa in modern psychological practice may be seen by some as a misuse of the concept of Tibetan Buddhism, since in religious rituals, this manifestation is often associated with deep spiritual practice and purpose. Experiences in Tulpa. Many Tulpamancers have shared their experiences with the creation of Tulpa. Tulpa is usually a character carefully created by the host and may have character traits, personalities, appearances, etc. Over time, these Tulpas may become more independent and able to exhibit different thoughts and emotions than their hosts. In some cases, Tulpa is more than just an imaginary friend of sorts, but also provides support, companionship, and even has a practical impact on the host's emotions. Differences from imaginary friends. While there are similarities between Tulpa and an imaginary friend, they have one key difference. Tulpa is seen as an independently conscious being in modern Tulpamancy, meaning that it is capable of exhibiting autonomous behavior, not just the imagination or projection of the host. Imaginary friends, on the other hand, are more often created by children or individuals, and are often completely dependent on the creator's mind. In summary, Tulpa is an interesting and mysterious concept in modern psychology and mysticism, which has different interpretations and uses in different cultural contexts. For those who are interested, creating a Tulpa is a psychological exploration. Some see it as a process of self-discovery, while others see it as a healing or meditation tool. Source, Wikipedia. Tulpa, English, Tulpa, Juba, phantom man or phantom spirit, is an ancient concept in mysticism, theosophy, and paranormal to refer to an object or being created through spiritual powers, derived from Tibetan Buddhism. Modern practitioners have borrowed and updated the term to refer to what they believe to be another sentient and volitional being in the human brain that is relatively independent of the subjective consciousness through psychological techniques and conscious creative acts. People who own one or more Tulpas are colloquially referred to as hosts, i.e., hosts, and more formally as Tulpamancer. Tulpa's thoughts, emotions, and personalities are often different from their hosts. Tulpa can be deliberately created through a series of meditation techniques and proper and systematic training, nurturing, and suggestion, or it can be created by chance when someone has an imaginary friend. The term Tulpa was first coined by Western theosophists in the 20th century, and the word originally meant emanation or manifestation in Tibetan. However, some people believe that the two concepts of modern Tulpamancy and Tibetan culture in China, which are so different that the use of Tulpa as a term is inappropriate and culturally attacking. According to a 2018 survey by the Otulpa community, the vast majority, 95.6%, of Tulpa have had a positive impact on their hosts' lives. However, a portion, 36.2%, of hosts report new problems in their lives with Tulpa. The survey also showed that the likelihood of the host's dominant status being replaced by Tulpa was minimal, with the only 2.3% exception considered to be within the margin of error. Another paper on psychology and social behavior concluded that Tulpa was a positive and beneficial spiritual presence for the Tulpamancers in general. 9. Self-brainwashing. Source: ChatGPT. Self-brainwashing refers to the fact that individuals force themselves to accept certain thoughts, concepts, or behavior patterns through repeated psychological suggestion, belief implantation, emotional control, etc., and these thoughts and behaviors will gradually change their understanding of reality or lifestyle. This process can be conscious or unconscious, and often in a way that closely resembles the traditional process of brainwashing, except that the object is the self rather than the other. Psychological background of self-brainwashing. Suggestion vs. Autosuggestion. The process of self-brainwashing usually involves intense autosuggestion, that is, through the constant repetition of certain ideas or behaviors, the individual begins to believe that those thoughts or behaviors are correct, and even becomes part of their behavior patterns. This repetition will gradually lead to the internalization of these ideas and the formation of a new personal belief system. Cognitive dissonance. This process may sometimes also be associated with cognitive dissonance theories. When a person is confronted with information that is inconsistent with their own beliefs or beliefs, they may reduce their inner discomfort by changing their behavior or beliefs. In the process of self-brainwashing, individuals are constantly changing their perception of certain situations or thoughts in order to achieve psychological consistency and comfort. Common ways of self-brainwashing. Repetitive thoughts. Repeatedly telling yourself certain beliefs or ideas, e.g., I can make it, I'm worthy of love, etc., causes the brain to accept and internalize these beliefs. Positive autosuggestion. Use positive language to change your perception of yourself, such as saying I'm powerful or I'm valuable to yourself in the mirror every day. This can help boost self-confidence and change behavior over time. Visualization tips. Reinforce these beliefs by imagining a scenario in which you achieve a goal or succeed. This helps build a sense of purpose and motivation. Lifestyle changes. Self-brainwashing may also involve specific behavioral changes, such as setting daily plans and developing healthy habits or routines, through which you can develop positive patterns of thinking and behavior. Reading a book or watching a movie. Reading books, watching videos, or listening to lectures, etc., can keep repeating certain philosophies or ideas, which are gradually internalized and become a part of you. The positive and negative aspects of self-brainwashing. Positive aspects. Self-improvement. The positive aspect of self-brainwashing is that it helps individuals change their negative thought patterns and thus their quality of life. For example, through positive autosuggestion or meditation, individuals can overcome negative emotions such as low self-esteem and anxiety, improve self-confidence, and achieve goals. Goal achievement. When people have clear goals and use self-brainwashing techniques to stay focused, they are often more effective in achieving their dreams or goals, which can also be used as a means of self-motivation. Negative aspects. Excessive self-reinforcement. Sometimes excessive autosuggestion and brainwashing can lead to unrealistic self-expectations, which can trigger disappointment and frustration. When a person expects too much or sets unrealistic goals, it can eventually lead to a collapse in self-confidence. Emotional control. If the process of self-brainwashing involves excessive suppression or control of emotions, it may lead to unhealthy emotional development, which in turn affects mental health. Examples of applications of self-brainwashing. Mental training for athletes. Many athletes use visualization techniques and positive autosuggestion to enhance game performance. For example, before a game, they may repeatedly imagine themselves in a winning scenario or use autosuggestion to stay calm and focused. Psychotherapy. Some forms of psychotherapy, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, also use autosuggestion and self-reflection techniques to help people change their negative thoughts and behaviors. Self-improvement and success. Many people use self-brainwashing techniques to stay motivated, overcome self-doubt, and boost self-confidence as they pursue their personal goals, career advancement, or spiritual growth. Notes. Avoid overdependence. While self-brainwashing has its positive effects, it should be approached with caution and not overdependent. Excessive autosuggestion can sometimes lead to a detachment from reality, or the formation of excessive narcissism and unrealistic expectations. Stay rational. When engaging in self-brainwashing, it is important to maintain a rational and realistic attitude, and to ensure that your actions are in line with reality, rather than relying solely on fantasies or excessive psychological cues. Source: Wikipedia. Brainwashing, The Science of Thought Control is a 2004 popular science book that explains mind control, also known as brainwashing, thought reform, and coercive persuasion, by neurologist and physiologist Kathleen Taylor. It explains the neurological basis of brain reasoning and cognition, and proposes that the self can be altered, while describing the physiology of neural pathways. The book reviews case studies including mass murders, suicides, and other cases involving Patrick Hearst, the Manson family, and members of the People's Temple in Jonestown, and compares the techniques of influence used by cults to those of totalitarian and communist societies. It lays out the facet model: freedom, agency, complexity, ends rather than means, and thinking, which she believes can be used to counteract the effects of brainwashing techniques. Taylor provides background on the development of the term brainwashing, from its use by journalist Edward Hunt in 1950 to its later application to cults, marketing, influence, ideological reform, torture, and re-education. In her book, she cites psychiatrist Robert J. Lifton's book Ideological Reform and the Psychology of Totalitarianism. Lifton's research is based on interviews with prisoners of war who were indoctrinated and tortured during the Korean War. Taylor finds the term brainwashing useful when referring to more coercive persuasion. She explains the neurological basis of reasoning and cognition in the brain and proposes the idea that the ego itself can be altered. She describes the physiology behind neural pathways, which include a network of neurons containing dendrites, axons, and synapses, and sheds light on certain brains with more rigid pathways that are less receptive to new information or creative stimuli. Taylor uses neuroscience to show that brainwashed people have more rigid paths, and that this rigidity makes individuals less likely to rethink situations and reorganize those paths later. Repetition is an integral part of brainwashing techniques, she explains, because the connections between neurons become stronger when signals of higher frequency and intensity come in. She believes that people in their teens and early 20s are more likely to be persuaded. Taylor explains that brain activity in the temporal lobe, the area responsible for the creation of art, also leads to mental experiences, a process known as instability. In the first part of the book, Torture and Seduction, Taylor analyzes how certain techniques are used in influencing and brainwashing others, including methods that restrict individual freedom, deceive, and conflict with the individual's decision-making process. She uses case studies, including the mass murders and suicides of Patrick Hearst, the Manson family, and members of the People's Temple in Jonestown, to illustrate the neurology she explains in Part 2, Traitors in the Head. The Manson family cited multiple murders committed by Charles Manson's followers in 1969, and Jim Jones's People's Temple cited the suicide of more than 900 followers in the town of Jones, Guyana, by taking cyanide. Taylor asserts that the techniques used by cults to influence others are similar to those used by other social groups, and compares similar totalitarian aspects of cults in communist societies. These techniques include isolating individuals, controlling access to information, challenging belief structures, creating doubt, and repeating information in a high-pressure environment. Taylor argues that cults emphasize the positive aspects of the group rather than the negative aspects of the individual, endlessly repeating simple ideas in a highly reductive, explicit exaggerated phrase manner, and referring to abstract and vague ideas related to huge emotional packages. Taylor writes that brainwashing involves a more intense way of learning the brain's traditions. In the final and third part of the book, Freedom and Control, Taylor describes the individual's susceptibility to brainwashing and lists the acronym FACET, a tool to counter influence and totalitarian thinking. FACET is an acronym for freedom, agency, complexity, ends not means, and thinking. The FACET model is based on Lifton's 8 standards of ideological reform, some of which Taylor rejects by emphasizing education and freedom of thought. 10. Socially contagious. Source: ChatGPT. Social contagion refers to the spread of emotions, behaviors, attitudes, or thoughts within a social group. This phenomenon shows that an individual's emotional state, behavior patterns, and even certain cultural trends can quickly spread within a group and influence others. To put it simply, it's like a contagion of emotions or behaviors that spreads through the group and affects everyone's thinking and behavior. Psychological principles of social contagion. Social contagion stems from the understanding of human social interaction, emotional connection, and group behavior in social psychology. Here are some psychological theories that explain this phenomenon. Emotional contagion. Humans are social creatures and often empathize with emotional reactions to others. When a person exhibits strong emotions, e.g., happiness, anxiety, sadness, etc., those around them may also can't help but feel similar emotional reactions. This emotional resonance and imitation is a typical social contagion phenomenon. Imitation and empathy. Humans have a strong mimicry behavior, especially in close social relationships. We unconsciously imitate the emotions, behaviors, and words of others. This imitation is not limited to outward behavior, but also includes emotional resonance. For example, if a friend is depressed, we may also feel similar emotions and further change our behavior to accommodate their emotional state. Group dynamics. In groups, people's behavior tends to be influenced by collective emotions. A change in the behavior of one person in a group can trigger others to imitate and follow, forming a group effect. In some cases, this effect can be amplified and spread rapidly, affecting the entire population. Social identity theory. According to social identity theory, people connect with their group, whether it's family, friends, or a larger social group, and strive to align with the group's values and behaviors. When a group of people exhibit certain emotions or behaviors, other members may feel the need to imitate those behaviors in order to maintain their identity and status in the group. Manifestations of social contagion. Emotional contagion. Emotions are a highly contagious psychological phenomenon. For example, you may also feel happy or excited when you see a certain friend happy or excited. Conversely, these emotions may also affect you when people around you are feeling depressed or anxious. Behavioral contagion. Behaviors can also be spread through social contagion. For example, certain patterns of behavior in a group, such as a certain popular sport, fashion trend, or even certain bad habits, such as smoking, drinking, etc., can quickly spread through social networks. Health behavior communication. Studies have shown that health behaviors, e.g., regular exercise, healthy eating, are also socially contagious. For example, if your friends around you start attending the gym or changing their eating habits, you're more likely to be affected and change your health behaviors. Social media and emotional communication. In today's digital age, social media amplifies the spread of emotions. For example, certain emotional expressions, news events, or challenging activities on social platforms can quickly spread globally and elicit an emotional response or behavioral imitation from a large number of people. Trends. In society and culture, certain trends or hotspots, such as certain music, movies, costumes, etc., can also rapidly expand and spread among large groups, which is a typical manifestation of social contagion. The impact of social contagiousness on life. Positive impact. Emotional support and motivation. The contagion of positive emotions can enhance group cohesion and enhance emotional support among members. For example, at work, an optimistic attitude may be contagious to others, boosting team morale and productivity. Health promotion. The spread of healthy behaviors can help group members form better habits. For example, if several people in a family or group of friends start to focus on healthy eating and exercise, others may be affected and in turn improve their lifestyle. Negative effects. Anxiety and panic. Negative emotions can also spread and can lead to general anxiety or panic in the group. For example, during a catastrophic event or outbreak, feelings of fear and anxiety can quickly spread through social circles, affecting large-scale group behavior. Spread of undesirable behaviors. Certain undesirable behaviors, e.g., alcoholism, smoking, etc., may be transmitted among social groups, especially when these behaviors are perceived as fashionable or a sign of a certain social circle, which may lead to more imitations and habituation. How to deal with social confection. Self-awareness. Understanding your emotional response in social situations and being aware of the transmissible nature of your emotions or behaviors can help you better manage your emotions and avoid being overly influenced by others. Choose a positive social circle. Connecting with positive individuals can help promote the spread of health and positive behaviors. Limit the contact of negative information. Avoid excessive exposure to negative information or anxiety and reduce the transmission of negative feelings. 11. Brain remodeling. Source: ChatGPT. Neuroplasticity, also known as neuroplasticity, refers to the ability of the brain to change its structure and function after being experienced, learned, or damaged. This is an important mechanism for the brain to adapt to the environment, learn new knowledge, or repair damage. The brain's neurons, nerve cells of the brain, and the connections between them can be changed according to demand, which allows us to learn new skills, adapt to new situations, and even restore impaired functions in some cases. There are two types of brain remodeling. Functional refactoring. Functional remodeling is when neural circuits in other areas of the brain compensate for these functions when certain areas of the brain are damaged. In this way, the brain can regain lost functions through other parts. For example, when a person suffers a brain injury, such as a stroke, while some areas of the brain may no longer function as they originally should, other parts of the brain can take over some of the lost functions. Structural restructuring. Structural restructuring refers to the physical alteration of the neural circuits and structures of the brain due to external stimuli, learning processes, or certain experiences. This can include the formation of new synapses between neurons, or the enhancement or weakening of the strength of synapses that are already present. Mechanisms of brain remodeling. Synaptic plasticity. Synapses are the connections between neurons, and nerve signals are transmitted through synapses. When we learn new knowledge or skills, synapses become stronger or weaker, which helps to improve the efficiency of information transmission. This change is called long-term potentiation, LTP, and long-term inhibition, LTD. LTP refers to an increase in synaptic strength, while LTD refers to a decrease in synaptic strength. These changes contribute to the brain's learning and memory functions. Neurogenesis. Neurogenesis refers to the production of nerve cells in the brain, particularly in the hippocampus, the area of the brain involved in memory and learning. This process is still present in the adult brain and can help the brain adapt to a new environment or repair damage. Although the adult brain has a limited capacity for neurogenesis, certain lifestyles, e.g., exercise, meditation, etc., can promote neurogenesis and further promote brain remodeling. Reorganization of neural circuits. When the brain is challenged to learn a new skill or cope with life's stresses, neural circuits reorganize, making certain areas of the brain more focused or effective at new tasks. For example, when learning a new language, structural changes occur in the language areas of the brain that support learning and memory of the new language. Applications of brain reconstruction. Learning and memory. The plasticity of the brain is essential to the learning process. Whether learning a new skill, such as playing the piano or riding a bicycle, or learning something new, such as language or mathematics, the brain restructures to reinforce learning by strengthening the connections of certain neural circuits. This explains why repeated practice makes a skill more proficient. Rehabilitation and recovery. After a stroke or other brain injury, the brain's ability to remodel can help patients regain impaired functions. Through physical therapy, speech therapy, or other forms of rehabilitation, the brain can learn to transfer lost function to other healthy areas or make new neural connections. Mental health. Brain restructuring has also been linked to emotional and mental health. When people learn new coping strategies to deal with stress, anxiety, or depression, the structure and function of the brain change. For example, meditation and mindfulness training have been shown to promote structural changes in areas of the brain associated with emotion regulation and self-control, helping to reduce anxiety and stress. Enhances cognitive abilities. Studies have shown that cognitive training, such as intellectual games, memory training, etc., can promote brain plasticity and help improve cognitive functions such as attention, memory, and problem-solving ability. How to promote brain remodeling. Learn a new skill or knowledge. Learning something new, such as learning a language, mastering a new skill, or challenging yourself to do something innovative can promote structural changes in the brain. Motion. Studies have shown that regular exercise can help promote neurogenesis, especially aerobic exercise, which can promote hippocampus health and enhance learning and memory skills. Meditation and mindfulness. Meditation and mindfulness practices have been shown to help strengthen structures in areas of the brain related to emotion regulation and self-control, thereby increasing emotional stability and reducing stress. Social interaction and emotional support. Active social activity contributes to brain health. Interacting with others and providing emotional support can promote plasticity in areas of the brain that contribute to emotional regulation and social cognition. Get enough sleep. Sleep is essential for brain remodeling. During sleep, the brain processes and solidifies information learned during the day, promoting memory and learning. Challenges and limitations of brain remodeling. Age. While brain plasticity persists throughout life, the ability to reconstruct the brain is somewhat diminished in older individuals. As we age, the rate of neurogenesis may slow down, which means that it may be slower to learn new skills or recover from injuries. Extent of brain damage. While the brain has some ability to repair itself, the ability to remodel nerves may be limited in some cases, especially when the damage is extremely severe or extensive. Source: ZHU. Memory recall is related to the target connection between the frontal lobe network and the default network. Other studies have shown that successful episodic memory retrieval is associated with a less modular network in which the hippocampus, anterior cuneiform lobe, and frontal cortex serve as highly connected hubs. These studies provide consistent evidence that the integration features of the hippocampus during recall reconfigure whole brain networks into an integrated state. In contrast, the separation of preset network nodes is associated with an effective visual semantic memory task. Attention is a higher cognitive ability that has been shown to be associated with network reconstruction. Speydun and colleagues demonstrated that performance of the visuospatial attention task was associated with an increase in orientation of the dynamic connections between the parietal and occipital regions. Other studies have shown that tracking multiple moving objects in their peripheral vision increases connectivity between networks. The focus on specific object classes leads to an increase in the connection between the ventral visual cortex and MTL. It also shows that higher topological efficiency improves the decoding accuracy of visual perception tasks. In a longitudinal study, Shine et al. Demonstrated that fluctuations in network topology over weeks to months correlated with metastate. A similar measure of regional flexibility has also been shown to correlate with attention task performance. In addition to this, other studies have shown that fluctuations in attention and alertness are associated with dynamic interactions within and between large-scale attention networks. These results are consistent with a recent study that used EEG to demonstrate that fluctuations in alpha band power are associated with relative impairment of consciousness, implying that attention is closely coordinated with the maximization of connections between specific states in a wide range of cortical regions. Consistent with this hypothesis, there is evidence that the integration properties of the network correlate with the performance of the attention task when correctly represented compared to the trials that are error-based. In conclusion, research suggests that network integration may be a key feature of effective attentional functioning. 12. Memory remodeling. Source: ChatGPT. Memory reconstruction refers to the process by which we may unconsciously reconstruct or change those memories when we recall past events or experiences, and these changes will be affected by various factors such as emotions, environment, social influences, and even the passage of time. In other words, memory is not completely fixed, but rather a dynamic process that may change depending on our perceptions, beliefs, emotional states, or external influences. Characteristics of memory remodeling. Memories are not exact copies. Memories do not reproduce facts as accurately as audio recordings or images, but are based on the brain's interpretation and understanding of events. In the process of recall, we reconstruct memories based on existing knowledge and emotional states, which can lead to changes or distortions of some details. Selectivity and ambiguity of memory. Our memories are often selectively preserved, with some details likely to be overlooked or downplayed, while others are emphasized. This selectivity makes memories not always objective and may even filter out parts that don't fit our current perceptions or emotions. Social and emotional impact. Memory remodeling is often influenced by external social factors. For example, when discussing an event with others, other people's opinions or descriptions may change our memories of the event, which is called social memory reconstruction. Affective states can also affect the reconstruction of memories, and emotionally intense experiences tend to be more vivid than ordinary experiences, but even strong memories can become blurry or distorted over time. Memory errors and false memories. The reconstruction of memories can sometimes lead to the creation of false memories. These erroneous memories can be completely non-existent events, or misinterpretations of facts. This phenomenon is known as false memory in psychology, and it is caused by the brain incorporating fictional episodes or details into memory as it reconstructs past events. Restructuring in the process of recall. Memories are not simply taken out somewhere in the brain, but are reassembled every time they are recalled. This process is influenced by many factors, such as the emotional state of the moment, the context of recollection, or past experiences. This makes the memory of the same event different each time it is recalled, and even reinforces certain details, or downplays others. The process of memory remodeling. Reconstructing memories. Each time we recall an event, we reconstruct the memory based on our current cognitive, emotional, and social context. For example, when we recall a painful experience, we may magnify some of the details and ignore others. Influence of external information. External information is incorporated into the original memory during the recall process. For example, through media reports or other people's descriptions, we may have a skewed memory of certain events, or even remember things that didn't happen in the first place. This phenomenon is known as information pollution, and it affects our memory of past events. Emotional impact. Our emotional state can significantly affect the reconstruction of memories. For example, when people are in a mood of sadness, anxiety, or happiness, their recollection of past experiences can be influenced by emotional color, which may make certain details appear more important or explicit. Memory loss and forgetting. Over time, our grasp of certain memories may weaken, and some details may be forgotten or disappear. These forgotten parts are sometimes filled in by our imaginations, leading to biases in memory reconstruction. The scientific basis of memory remodeling. Brain plasticity. Memory remodeling is rooted in the brain's neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to alter neural connections as it undergoes a process or learns. This plasticity allows the brain to adjust and reconstruct memories based on new experiences or recalls. The role of the hippocampus. The hippocampus is an important brain region responsible for processing and storing long-term memories. It helps convert short-term memory into long-term memory and plays an important role in the process of memory reconstruction. Emotions and memory. The amygdala in the brain is closely related to emotional processing and affects the intensity and clarity of memories. Emotionally intense events, such as traumatic experiences, often leave a deeper impression of memories that are easily reconstructed or distorted over time. Memory regeneration and memory hypothesis. Memory is not simply a process of regeneration, but a process of recreation. In this process, the brain uses existing information and knowledge to fill in the gaps in the memory, which can sometimes lead to distorted memory. Applications of memory remodeling. PTSD. Memory remodeling techniques have applications in psychotherapy, especially in the treatment of emotional trauma such as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Through methods such as cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, patients can reconstruct memories of the traumatic event to reduce their disruption to daily life. Research on false memory. Studies have shown that the production of false memories may be caused by external messages or other people's cues, and these studies have been used to understand the reliability of human memories and also have important applications in law and evidence. For example, false memories in witness testimony can affect the outcome of a trial. Application of memory reconstruction in learning. Memory reconstruction also helps us understand and integrate information during the learning process. By reorganizing and reinterpreting information, we are better able to grasp new knowledge and connect it to what already exists. How to manage memory remodeling. Self-awareness and critical thinking. Increasing self-awareness and being sensitive to our own memory processes can help us recognize which memories may be reconstructed or distorted. Critical thinking helps to question our memories and examine them from multiple perspectives. Past experiences. Emotion management. Emotions have a great impact on memory, and learning to manage emotions and reduce emotional biases can help maintain the objectivity of memory. For example, learning to reduce excessive emotional reactions when recalling past events can help improve the accuracy of memory. Source: Facebook. Lu Yiyu. Do you trust your own memories? In fact, memories can be misled and distorted. Especially in situations of stress or suggestion, and the emotions of the moment can also affect the strength of our memories of certain events. At the same time, memories are also malleable and change with time and new experiences, and each time you recall, the memory may be recoded and modified. Memories are real and mixed with personal cognition, affecting our self-identity and life. By understanding how it works, we can be masters of memory, not at its mercy. One memory is malleable. Memories are not permanent, but can be modified and reshaped. For example, a person who was teased by classmates at school as a child may have felt anxious about social situations. But through psychotherapy or self-reflection, the experience can be reinterpreted and seen as an opportunity to grow and have the opportunity to reduce social phobia and build a more positive self-image. This means that we can change our perception of ourselves and our future actions through positive reminiscences and reinterpretation of past experiences. 2. The importance of emotions in memory formation and recall. Why do we have particularly vivid memories of certain ones? Because of the emotional intensity, repetitive recall, and the uniqueness of the memory itself, it affects the formation and recall process of memory. Intense emotional experiences, such as happiness, sadness, and fear, stimulate the amygdala in the brain and are closely related to emotional processing and memory formation. So you will remember the first time you took the stage to speak, because it was a time of tension and excitement. Remembering an event regularly also reinforces a memory. For example, if a friend keeps mentioning an embarrassing incident about you, the memory will become very clear because it has been mentioned many times. If it's another unique event, it's easier to remember. We can use these properties of memory to improve learning outcomes and quality of life. For example, in school or work, if we maintain a positive mood, it can help us remember information better. Listening to music, exercising, or meditating can be used to boost positive emotions. Memory is also strengthened through repeated practice and recall, which also shows the importance of deliberate practice when learning new skills or preparing for exams. Being able to connect learning content to unique experiences or situations can also help with better retention. In addition, learning using multiple senses such as sight, hearing, and touch also has the effect of enhancing memory. 3. Memory is social, influencing relationships and identity. Our interactions with others form shared memories, which in turn influence our social relationships and identity. For example, in a project, team members experience challenges and successes together, and the shared memories that arise will strengthen the team's cohesion and spirit of cooperation. These memories not only affect their sense of identification with the team, but also increase the efficiency and trust of future collaborations. 13. Memory is unreliable. Source: ChatGPT. Memory unreliability is a widespread phenomenon that has been studied by psychologists and neuroscientists. In fact, human memory does not store every detail as precisely as a video recorder. Instead, our memory is dynamic and reconfigurable, meaning it can change with each recall. These changes can be influenced by a variety of factors, including emotions, time, circumstances, the influence of others, and even our beliefs and expectations. This also explains why memories are sometimes errors, omissions, or distortions. Reasons for unreliable memory. Restructurability of memory. Memories are not specific images that are fixed and stored in the brain. Rather, it is a process of reconstruction, in which memories are extracted from our brains and recreated each time they are recalled. In this process, we reorganize memories based on current emotional states, beliefs, and new information, which can cause memories to differ from what actually happened at the time. Information pollution. Memories can be influenced by external information, which can lead to changes in what is recalled. When we discuss an event with others, their description or opinion can affect our memory, which is known as social memory pollution. In addition, media reports or testimonies from others can also skew our memory of certain events. Emotional impact. The impact of emotions on memory is profound. Intense emotions, such as fear, anger, sadness, etc., may alter the details of our memories. For example, a traumatic event may cause people to recall certain details that are too stark or overly exaggerated, and to ignore others. This is why some emotionally strong memories are often more likely to be erroneous or distorted than ordinary memories. Effect of time. Over time, our memories can fade or fade. Long-term memory is not the same as precise storage, but relies on the brain's constant restructuring and renewal in daily life. As a result, the details of memories are sometimes forgotten or replaced, and some people may mistakenly think that they remember something, but in reality these memories are based on false speculations or a mixture of other events. Self-bias and beliefs. Our personal beliefs and worldviews affect the content and form of our memories. For example, memories of certain events may be influenced by our values or expectations. People tend to remember things that support their beliefs and ignore or distort details that don't align with their views. False memory. Studies have found that people may form false memories in certain situations that do not exist at all. For example, through constructive prompts or repeated hints, people may recall events they never experienced, a phenomenon known as false memory. This phenomenon is common in eyewitness recall cases, in psychotherapy, and even in everyday life. Instance: eyewitness statements. Eyewitness recollections after the incident are often less precise than expected. Multiple questioning, social pressure, or media coverage may alter a witness's memory, causing them to recall events that differ from the facts. This is one of the reasons why in court, the testimony of eyewitnesses is often questioned. Recall error. Many people may experience a situation where they feel like they remember an event or detail, but when they look back, they find that they remember it wrong. This kind of memory error is very common in everyday life, such as when you recall an old party, you may mistakenly remember someone's words or actions when in fact they didn't say that. Examples of false memories. In some psychotherapy sessions, patients are directed to recall their past traumatic experiences. However, some patients develop false memories during the process and even believe that they have experienced some non-existent events. For example, some patients who have been induced to recall claim to have experienced childhood trauma, but these memories later turn out to be fictitious. Effects of unreliable memory. Effect of legal judgment. As eyewitness testimony may contain erroneous or distorted memories, this can affect court decisions. In fact, misleading testimony and memory errors can lead to an innocent person being wrongly convicted, or a criminal to get away with it. Misunderstandings in relationships. The unreliability of memories can also affect our social and interpersonal relationships. When two people recall the same event, their memories may differ, which can lead to misunderstandings or arguments. People may misinterpret the other person's actions or words because of misrecalls, which can lead to conflicts. Biases in personal perception. The restructuring of memories may affect our self-perception. When we recall past experiences, our emotions and values influence how we evaluate ourselves. For example, focusing too much on one's past failures can lead to excessive denial of one's own abilities and affect self-confidence. How to deal with unreliable memory. Maintain critical thinking. Understanding the unreliability of memory is the first step. When we recall things from the past, keep thinking critically and realize that memories can be influenced by multiple factors such as time, emotion, external information, etc. Multi-perspective review. When dealing with memories, try to look at the event from a different perspective. Asking others about their perceptions or recollections can help form a more comprehensive understanding and reduce the impact of personal biases. Avoid over-reliance on recollection. Important decisions should be based on information from multiple sources and not just on memory. Especially in a courtroom or formal setting, evidence of a single recall should be avoided as much as possible. Source: Shang Zhou. The U.S. investigative report has confirmed that more than 300 innocent prisoners have been wrongfully imprisoned, and investigators have found that nearly 3/4 of the cases are caused by false accusations by witnesses. Why do witnesses tell things that never happened? If these charges are not deliberately defamed, then the best chance of a miscarriage of justice is that the witness remembered the wrong testimony and the judge accepted the wrong testimony and made the wrong verdict. Perhaps, it is normal for everyone to be forgetful and lose the impression of something that happened, but it is clear that vague impressions are not the key to influencing the verdict. The plot of the movie The Brand of Lies, released in 2013, depicts the unfortunate experience of Lucas, an innocent person, who was convicted because the memory of the little girl was misinterpreted. The weirdness in the film lies in the fact that adults preconceived that the little girl was traumatized and suppressed uncomfortable memories, so they did not dare to admit the truth of being sexually assaulted by Lucas. However, with the help of others, the little girl's testimony convicted Lucas, and overnight, Lucas became the target of sexual assault, and his original stable life completely collapsed. The movie reflects the truth. There were many sexual assault suspicions in the United States in the 90s, and the real-world cases are somewhat similar to the plot of the movie, which has destroyed the emotions and trust of countless families. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus's motivation for studying false memories stemmed from her participation in countless unjust trials, which began her future research on false memories, and wrote psychological books such as The Myth of Repressed Memory to show people that memory is not as strong as imagined, because it is malleable. Just like Wikipedia, you can change the information in it, but other people can do it too. In the 70s, Loftus first experimented with memory, dividing subjects involved in accidents into witnesses and witnesses, asking witnesses in two ways: how fast did the two cars go when they hit? How fast are these two cars smashing? Witnesses who were asked about the violent impact thought the speed of the car was faster than another group of witnesses who were asked to have an impact. Asking the subjects involved separately in the same way, Loftus also received a two-way answer. Some of the subjects who were asked about the violent impact even claimed that they had accidentally seen broken glass at the scene, but in fact, there was no broken glass at all. In another experiment, the subjects were subjected to a bit of pressure, this time by American veterans who had undergone horrific drills and knew that if they were captured by the enemy, they would be humiliated and provoked. After simulating the above scenario, the test team asked the subjects to indicate who the commander of the interrogation was, and managed to include hints from which they received the wrong information. Most of the subjects were misled and even mistaken for a very different person. It can be seen that memory is susceptible to misinformation from others. Imagine a situation where a police officer is interrogating a witness, asks suggestive questions, and uses a photograph of a suspect to try to identify the witness. Is it possible that this kind of facilitation process will indirectly distort the witness's memory? In the 90s, there were many strange cases in the United States where patients suddenly had memories of things that never happened. Loftus found that because many psychorepressive therapists were deeply influenced by Freudian theories, they tried to guide patients to remember the past through the above suggestion methods, resulting in a serious misguided memory. At that time, some people had been suffering from mental illnesses such as eating disorders or depression for a long time, and turned to psychotherapists in the hope of returning to a healthy state. However, later on, the patients who received the treatment began to develop all kinds of strange and even unreal memories. Loftus suspects that psychotherapists who have been heavily influenced by Freud's theories believe that the patient is repressing the subconscious memory, and use therapeutic methods such as imagination exercises, dream interpretation, hypnosis, and receiving false information to try to evoke those deep memories, but this has the opposite effect of the memory being tampered with. Again, she devised experiments to hypothesize that it would be impossible for us to implant false memories into others if we used the above hints. One of the most famous examples is the shopping mall lost experiment. Loftus collected 3 actual life clips from the subject's relatives, and added a fabricated fake fragment. The subject had a childhood experience of getting lost in a shopping mall, and at that time he was scared and cried, and finally an adult came to reunite him with his family. Loftus wrote down these experiences into 4 memory fragments and handed them to the subject, asking them to fill in the details of the 4 memories on their own. As a result, a quarter of the population believed they had lost their way in the shopping mall, and even added a lot of details to this false memory. At the end of the experiment, Loftus told them that one of the 4 clips was fabricated. However, the vast majority of people still don't think that the experience of getting lost is fictional. In addition to Loftus's experiment, researchers from all over the world have also done related experiments. It seems to make the subject mistakenly believe that he almost drowned when he was a child, and then was rescued by someone, or think that they have been attacked by beasts. It even makes people believe that they have seen strange experiences such as demonic possession. There is a lot of moral and ethical controversy about experimenting with implanting memories to constrain the behavior of others, but Loftus believes that this technology can change the quality of our lives for the better. On the other hand, if it makes you have a bad impression of certain junk foods, you won't want to eat them anymore, and maybe it will save the next generation from obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure and other diseases caused by poor eating habits. Of course, we can't be sure whether the altered memory will affect our future thoughts and behaviors, but it is true that memory cannot be easily replaced, because it symbolizes identity and gives the best annotation of emotional identity for questions such as where the self comes from. So, memories deserve to be cherished, just as we value freedom. After all, memory and freedom are so fragile. 14. False consensus. Source: ChatGPT. The false consensus effect is a type of cognitive bias in which people overestimate the universality of their own beliefs, values, or behaviors among others. Put simply, we tend to think that other people think or act the same way as ourselves, even if they don't. This bias can stem from our high level of confidence in our own opinions, and we tend to believe that most people share the same views as ourselves, which can lead to our misjudgment of group opinions. Characteristics of false consensus. Overestimating the approval of others. When we take our own views on an issue for granted, we overestimate the likelihood that others will hold the same opinion. For example, if we support a political viewpoint, we may assume that the majority of people will support that viewpoint, even if it is not. Strengthening social proof. False consensus can reinforce our sense of social identity with our own views. If we think that most people share our views, then we feel that our views are more correct and that we feel more like we belong to the group. Ignoring diversity. This bias can lead us to ignore diversity within social groups and rely too much on identifying with one's own views and ignoring the existence of people of different backgrounds or perspectives. Reasons for the false consensus. Self-bias. We often overestimate our own universality and assume that others have the same experiences and ways of thinking as we do. This is due to the fact that we are too focused on our own perceptions and do not have a deep understanding of the perspectives of others. Emotional needs. Having consensus can be psychologically comforting. People are naturally looking for a sense of belonging and group identity, so we feel at ease and comfortable when we trust others to share our beliefs. Information filtering. We are often more exposed to information that agrees with us, and this filtering of information makes us more confident in our support for our own opinions, and mistakenly believes that most people think the same way. Socialization process. In the process of socialization, especially under the influence of family, school, and the media, we habitually accept some values or beliefs and believe that these values are universal, thus generating false consensus. Impact of false consensus. Reinforcing social divisions. False consensus can exacerbate divisions between social groups. For example, when we overthink that a certain point of view is universal, we may have rejection or misunderstanding of people who disagree. This can exacerbate divisions between different groups and lead to social polarization. Influencing decision-making. False consensus influences our decision-making, especially in group decision-making. When people believe that the majority of people support a certain decision, they may be overconfident and ignore possible dissent or different points of view, leading to the wrong decision. Reducing tolerance for dissent. If we believe in the universality of our views, we may feel incomprehensible or impatient with people who disagree, which weakens society's tolerance for pluralistic views and reduces acceptance of dissenting voices. Increase your insistence on your own opinions. When we perceive our views to be universally accepted, we may become more persistent in those views, and this belief reinforcement effect can sometimes make it difficult for us to accept new ideas or challenges, leading to cognitive closure. Examples of false consensus. Political views. Some people may consider their political affiliation or views to be mainstream and believe that most people share their political affiliations. Such thinking could lead to political polarization and reinforce the exclusion of dissent. Behavioral habits. For example, some people may think that most people follow healthy eating habits as they do, or that everyone chooses eco-friendly behaviors. But in fact, these behaviors are not universal, and this misconception may affect their understanding and judgment of the behavior of others. The impact of social media. On social media, we often focus on people and content that share our own views, which can exacerbate the formation of false consensuses. When we see more posts that support our own views, we become more convinced that we are right and ignore the voices of those who disagree. Misconceptions in the work environment. In the workplace, people may assume that their coworkers have the same working methods or ways of thinking as themselves. For example, if someone thinks a certain way of working is the most effective, they may assume that everyone agrees with that approach, which is not the case. How to avoid false perceptions. Exposure to diverse perspectives. Knowing and respecting opinions that differ from your own is an effective way to avoid false consensus. By communicating with people of different backgrounds, cultures, or perspectives, we can broaden our horizons and reduce the risk of over-reliance on our own perspectives. Question your own point of view. Regularly question and reflect on our own opinions, especially when we feel like our opinions are being taken for granted. This can help us recognize our own biases and be more open to new or different perspectives. Ask for honest feedback. When we have certain ideas or opinions, we can seek real feedback from others, especially those who have different opinions than our own. This allows for a more realistic understanding of other people's perceptions and avoids taking one's own views as universal facts. Reduce information filtering. Avoid only engaging with information that aligns with your own point of view and try to reach out to information from different sources to understand the multifaceted nature of things more objectively. Source: Wikipedia. The false consensus effect, as defined by the APA Psychology Dictionary, is the tendency to believe that one's opinions, beliefs, characteristics, or behaviors are more widely shared than they actually are. Statistics show that this speculative correlation does not hold water, so reaching a consensus may be just an illusion. The source of this logical fallacy is that groups or individuals overestimate the similarity of the public to their views, beliefs, and preferences. This bias occurs when some people believe that their consensus can be applied to holistic thinking, and because there is usually a consensus among group members without controversy, they tend to believe that everyone thinks the same thing. If the evidence shows that there is no consensus as a whole, it is thought that there is something wrong with the ideas of those who disagree. This cognitive bias is not caused by a single cause, which may include availability and self-interest bias, and there may be other psychological defense mechanisms behind the phenomenon. Because family members or friends have values and behaviors that are more similar to our own, and are in constant contact with them, we think that our own thoughts are in the majority, and people will feel good about themselves, thinking that other people are similar to themselves, which is related to self-esteem, which stems from the desire to conform to others and be liked by others in the social environment. This bias is especially common in group settings. People think that the opinions of their group are consistent with the opinions of larger groups, and these reasons will indirectly produce false consensus effects. The false consensus effect is not limited to the situation where people believe that their values are shared by the majority, but also shows an overestimation of the degree of their own beliefs. 15. Why are the myths of the whole world the same? Source: ChatGPT. Myths around the world are similar in many ways, and this phenomenon is often referred to as mythic commonality or universal mythological patterns. These similarities may come from several different reasons, including cultural commonalities, common patterns in psychology, and the interweaving of histories and cultures. Here are some possible explanations. 1. Common psychological structure of human beings. Collective subconscious. The concept of the collective unconscious, proposed by psychologist Carl Jung, argues that all human beings share certain archetypes, which exist in all cultures and manifest themselves in myths, dreams, art, etc. For example, the adventures of heroes, creation myths, and the relationship between gods and humans are all created based on the common inner psychological structure of human beings. These universal themes may reflect the common thinking and imagination of human beings about basic existential issues such as life and death, creation, moral conflict, and the hero's journey. 2. Human beings face similar natural and social environments. Common experience of the natural world. Regardless of culture, human beings must face similar natural phenomena and existential challenges, such as the cycle of life and death, natural disasters, changing seasons, natural disasters, and diseases. These shared experiences are often expressed in myths, such as the story of a great flood or the intervention of natural disasters and gods in creation myths. Agriculture and life cycles. Many of the myths have their roots in seasonal shifts, farming, and harvesting in agrarian societies. For example, the concept of harvest and depletion, and the cycle of death and rebirth, can be found in similar stories across cultures. 3. Language and cultural exchange. Cultural diffusion and exchange. Historically, myths and stories have spread as different ethnic groups have exchanged and migrated with each other. For example, the ancient Silk Road, maritime trade, conquest, and migration, etc., facilitated contact between various cultures, and caused some myths and stories to influence and merge with each other. Even though some myths differ in different cultures, there are similarities in their core concepts. Cultural borrowing and adaptation. As different civilizations develop, certain mythological elements are borrowed or adapted. For example, the myths of ancient Middle Eastern civilizations, such as Sumer and Babylon, and ancient Greece had a profound influence on later Western culture, which also led to some common story patterns in mythology. 4. Semiotics and symbolic thinking. Symbolic interpretation. Myths often use symbols to explain the origin of the world, the meaning of human existence, and the causes of natural phenomena. These symbolic expressions, such as creation, divine intervention, heroic trials, etc., have similar manifestations in cultures around the world. These common symbols may reflect humanity's fundamental understanding of existence, order, morality, and the universe. Common symbolic system. Many elements of mythological stories, such as the relationship between gods and heroes, death and rebirth, and the opposition between light and darkness, are often presented in symbolic images, and these symbols are similarly represented in different cultures. 5. Similar social functioning. Interpreting phenomena and passing on values. Myths have similar social functions in many cultures, including explaining natural phenomena, transmitting moral values, and providing a collective identity. These myths are not only expressions of religious beliefs, but also symbols of cultural norms and social order. Each culture has its own mythological system to explain the origin of the world and the role of human beings, and such functional requirements make the myths of different cultures often have similar structures and themes. 6. Universal mythological themes. Creation stories. There are creation stories in almost every culture that describe how the world came out of chaos and how gods created all things. Hero's journey. Whether it's Hercules in Greece, the Monkey King in China, or Odin in Northern Europe, there are many mythological stories about the adventures of heroes or gods, going through various trials and eventually achieving victory or revelation. Natural disasters and the Great Flood. The myth of the Great Flood is a theme that can be found in almost all cultures around the globe. These kinds of stories usually describe the punishment of humanity by the gods and how the chosen characters survived and restarted human civilization. Notable examples include the Christian Noah's Ark, the Babylonian Epic of Gilgamesh, and the Chinese legend of Yuzhishui. 7. Cultural theories explaining the similarity of myths. Anthropological perspectives. Anthropologists such as Joseph Campbell have proposed the hero's journey theory, arguing that similar structures and patterns are prevalent in myths and stories around the world that reflect universal experiences and emotional needs in human life. Campbell's research found significant similarities in the framing of heroic stories in both the East and the West. Data source, Bilibili. Together, we delve into a mysterious and fascinating topic: the mysterious similarities in myths and legends around the world. Have you ever wondered why we find so much in common in different myths and stories around the world, despite the diversity of cultural backgrounds? Let's start with two intertwined musicians and emotions. In Greek mythology, there was such a musical genius, and he was Orpus. The sound of his piano can move everything in the world, even the stones are moved. However, the most touching part of his story is his legendary journey into the underworld in order to find his beloved wife. He touched Hades and Persephone with the soulful sound of the piano, and he was about to succeed, but because of a casual retrospective, he fell short and lost the opportunity to reunite with his wife forever. This kind of turning back and killing leads to the regret of being one step away, which makes people sigh. Coincidentally, in distant Japanese mythology, the story of the god Izanagi shows similar taboos and choices. While escaping the gloomy country of Yellow Springs, he faces the severe test of never looking back. Although the background and environment of the story are completely different from Orb's, the tension on the edge of life and death and the difficulty of making choices make people feel the same fear and struggle in the face of the unknown and taboos. In addition to these deeply emotional stories, we can also find many heroic images in mythology. For example, Thor, the god of thunder in Norse mythology, and Indra, the god of thunder in Hindu mythology, are both fierce warriors who hold a thundering hammer and protect their homeland. Their stories not only show the admiration of strength and courage, but also reflect the infinite admiration of human beings for heroes. In addition, there are many other interesting parallels in mythological stories. For example, in the classic hero saves beauty scene, there is a story of the Trojan War in Greek mythology because of the beauty of Helen, and in the Indian epic Mahabharata, there is also a plot of Arjuna embarking on a journey to save the princess. These stories all embody the praise of love and the praise of heroism, as if they are a universal love script, so that people can feel the greatness of love and the heroic spirit of different cultural backgrounds. The mysterious trio of brothers is also a common element in mythological tales. For example, the three Vanyi brothers in Norse mythology and the three stars of Fu Lu Shao in Chinese mythology. They play an important role in their respective fields, as if the family spirit is passed down and embodied on a global scale. These images of the three brothers are not only symbolic, but also give a sense of the power of unity and collaboration. And those interesting mythical beasts add a lot of color to the mythological story. The golden fleece in Greek mythology symbolizes the preciousness of treasures, while the unicorn and other wild beasts in Chinese mythology make the mythical world more lively and interesting. The images of these mythical beasts not only enrich the content of the story, but also make people feel the fantasy and charm of mythology. These similarities are not coincidences, but rather reveal common human mental patterns and emotional needs. In the face of eternal themes such as life and death, love and justice, our emotional responses and appeals are all similar. This is precisely why mythologists from ancient and modern times, both Chinese and foreign, have invariably focused on these themes and created common storylines and character settings. Here, we have to mention the theory of the collective unconscious of the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung. He believes that there is a subconscious layer in the human psyche that transcends the individual and is shared by all human beings. The similarities in these myths and legends may be the embodiment of this collective subconscious in the creation of myths. These stories touch the softest and most common emotions and imaginations within us precisely because they stem from our innermost collective memories. In addition to psychological explanations, there is also the view that these similarities may stem from the common human cognition of natural phenomena and the laws of the universe. For example, the flood myth that is widely circulated around the world is probably because of the deep experience and awe of the flood disaster of ancient human beings, which constructed the narrative framework of the flood and then rebirth in the myth. These stories not only reflect the awe and imagination of human beings towards nature, but also reveal our desire to survive and be reborn. Of course, the role of cultural communication and exchange cannot be ignored. Ancient trade and cultural exchanges not only facilitated the flow of material and technology, but also allowed myths and stories between different civilizations to learn from each other. For example, Mesopotamian mythology and ancient Egyptian mythology both have episodes in which the creator god created humans out of clay, which is likely the result of close cultural interaction between the two neighboring civilizations in ancient times. Although this kind of plot also appears in other myths. Therefore, the similarities in myths and legends around the world come from many aspects, including the common psychological patterns and emotional appeals of human beings, the common understanding of natural phenomena and the laws of the universe, and the influence of cultural exchanges and transmissions. These similar elements not only reveal the mysteries of human culture, but also make us more cherish and respect the uniqueness and diversity of each civilization. 16. Reddit No Sleep. Source: ChatGPT. Reddit No Sleep is a popular Reddit section dedicated to sharing and creating horror stories. These stories are usually presented in the form of real events, and the rules require that the stories must be fictional horror stories, and the narrator must pretend that the stories are real experiences. This makes the story more immersive, and the reader will have the idea that this may be true, which will deepen the sense of horror. No Sleep. Story style: most stories are written from a first-person perspective, and the narrator describes the horrors he or she has personally experienced, which makes it easier for the reader to relate and creates a stronger atmosphere of fear. Rule requirements: in order to keep the section authentic and immersive, Reddit has strict rules for No Sleep. All participants must pretend that the story is true, even if the story is clearly fictional, and the reader must respect this and maintain an atmosphere of horror immersed in the story. Atmosphere: No Sleep stories often have intense psychological horrors and supernatural elements, ranging from eerie loneliness to mysterious ghosts, monsters, and even spooky mind games, all of which are important factors in attracting readers. User interaction. The interaction between readers and authors is also a highlight of No Sleep. Many stories attract a lot of comments, and readers post their thoughts or guesses at the end of the story, and discuss the plot, details, or background of the story with other readers. Story type. The subject matter of the story is quite diverse. In addition to traditional ghosts and monsters, there are more psychological horrors, such as hallucinations, mental breakdowns, out-of-control emotions, etc., so that horror is not limited to physical fright. Why No Sleep is so popular? Highly immersive experience. Since the story is presented in a format of real experience, it creates a sense of this could be true that keeps the reader unconsciously engaged. Diverse stories and styles. Each author can create a story according to their own style, whether it's supernatural events or psychic fears. The variety of stories will never bore. Community engagement. No Sleep users often leave detailed comments and discussions at the end of the story, which not only deepens the sense of immersion in the story, but also prompts the reader to reflect on and explore the psychological and cultural implications behind the horror. Creative freedom. Since most of the stories are fictional, the author has great creative freedom to design horror elements according to his own ideas, making the story more unexpected and terrifying. Some examples of classic No Sleep stories. The Russian Sleep Experiment. One of the most famous stories in No Sleep describes a Soviet-era experiment in which scientists used extreme means to test how long humans could tolerate extreme sleep deprivation. The horror and inhumane experimental setting of the story makes this article extremely engaging. I found a dead body in my house. This story follows a man who discovers an unknown deceased in his home and exposes the supernatural background behind this event, which is creepy. The Smiling Man. This story depicts a man who meets a man who always wears a strange smile on his way home at night, and the horror atmosphere is enhanced by psychological fear and uncertainty. No Sleep's community culture. In No Sleep's community, there is a strong interaction between creators and readers. Many readers will ask questions or analyze the story, and the author will respond positively, which not only makes the story more interesting, but also makes the reader more engaged in the story. Another feature of this section is story serialization. Some authors will release the story in multiple parts, and at the end of each part, the plot of the story will lead to suspense, drawing readers to wait for the next update. Source: Reddit. NoSleep. This is an unusual subreddit created for the No Sleep community. Feel free to discuss anything related to the No Sleep community, horror, and writing in general. Special Reddit original article. My Uncle Matt never existed. My family and I have been going through a very strange experience over the last couple of months. It's hard to even put into words or explain what is going on. I guess I can just start off from where it all started to feel off. A few months back my family had a big get-together. My parents both have 2 siblings. They all got married and had some kids. Well, all of them except Uncle Matt. He never got married or had kids. That means I have 10 cousins. My aunts and uncles all live within 2 hours of us, so we've all grown up together. That being said, we don't normally have all my aunts and uncles in a house at once. This was a rare occasion to have a family meal when they were all free. I will not be naming every single family member in this post because that seems like a lot of information, and honestly, you've already gotten more information about my family than you ever wanted, but I promise this context is important. Okay, enough with my babbling. Let's talk about what happened that weird night. My parents and I went over to my Aunt Margot and Uncle Ken's house for a barbecue in the backyard. The backyard felt loud and chaotic. I tried to stay out of the way and get the night over with. I was honestly just there for the free food. We were all sitting down at a big table outside. I was so focused on making sure none of the napkins went flying in the wind I wasn't listening to the conversation. My Aunt Margot came over to the table with a plate of really burnt hot dogs. My mom immediately started to laugh at the sight of them. Is burning food genetic or something? How on earth do you guys always do that to food? The Jensens need to leave the cooking to the Millers. My mom said with a sarcastic giggle. Uncle Ken looked at her confused. What are you on about, Liz? Uncle Ken snapped back. I mean, Margot burnt the hot dogs and Matt always burns food when he cooks. Remember we had to ban him for months from cooking because we had to order takeout like 3 times in a row. Everyone at the table laughed, recalling their memories. Sighs of recollection bounced back and forth from person to person when my dad spoke up in Aunt Margot's defense. Honey, what are you talking about? Matt is your brother. I really shouldn't have to remind you of that. My mom rolled her eyes in response to my dad. I spoke up because I was suddenly confused about which side of the family Uncle Matt was actually on. You would think I would naturally just know that, but all my aunts and uncles act like siblings and call each other their siblings. My grandparents often refer to their son/daughter-in-laws as just their kids, so it isn't something I always think about. Wait, I'm confused. Whose side is Uncle Matt on? What is the joke? I don't get it. I asked but was only met with a laugh from all the parents at the table. I finally got an answer from my mom following the silence of the joke that somehow went over my head. Don't be silly baby, Matt is your dad's brother. As the words left her mouth half the table looked confused. Liz, what are you talking about? He is on your side. He is a Miller. My Aunt Margot said as she scraped off the burnt edges of her hot dog. Okay, now I'm with Amanda. I don't get the joke. My mom said while looking at me with narrow inquisitive eyes and then at the rest of the group. Wait, everyone slow down. Aunt June said, speaking up for probably the first time in the night. This is dumb. Matt is not Liz and I's brother. He has to be on the Jensen's side of the family. I sat at the table watching my family in silence. Their eyes darted back and forth. They stopped laughing and were all just scratching their heads. After a few minutes, my mom got out her phone. She found an old family photo from when she was a kid. In the photo were her, my grandparents, my Uncle Paul, and my Aunt June. Nothing out of the ordinary. After looking at the picture, Aunt Margot got out her phone and looked for an old childhood photo. Aha! Found one. She stated as she showed off the photo on her phone. Yet again, the photo was normal. It had my grandparents, my dad, Aunt Margot, and Aunt Susan. The next hour consisted of both sides of the family going back and forth showing photos. None of them with Uncle Matt in them. I had a few of my cousins there, but they all lost interest once they ate. I on the other hand couldn't be pulled away. I was engrossed in learning where the heck Uncle Matt came from. They kept talking back and forth. They figured maybe he wasn't anyone's sibling. Maybe he was related by marriage or a second cousin twice removed that I just called Uncle Matt because that was the easiest thing to call him. We all have a relative like that, right? I know an easy solution you might be thinking of is to just call him up. That's also what I said, but he was working and they didn't want to interrupt him, but guess what? I needed answers, so I decided to call him. However, when I looked at my phone I couldn't find him in my contacts. I looked through it multiple times. I remembered texting him about something a few days back, so he should have been in my text history. Still nothing. After being weirded out by his contact being gone, I mentioned out loud that someone should call him. Regardless of him being at work. No one agreed with me, but once I told them his contact was missing from my phone they all got curious and looked to see if he was missing for them too. We were all in shock to find him missing from all our phones. The family started to dig through their camera rolls and any digital libraries they had to try and find any photo of him. Uncle Andrew thought he had a photo of the back of him, but we soon found that we all remembered him looking differently. Uncle Andrew showed a picture of the back of a bald man who looked pretty tall. Aunt June called him crazy and recalled him having long curly red hair. It wasn't like we hadn't seen him in a year or that he was some kind of distant memory. I saw the guy last week. He came over to my house to help me with some homework, and I can tell you he didn't have red hair or no hair at all. He was, well, shoot. I can't remember what he looked like now that I think about it. It was safe to say we were all creeped out. As the sun went down and it got chilly out, the group moved inside. Normally, this is when everyone would go home, but I saw Aunt Margot start a pot of coffee. It was going to be a long night. The air was tense and full of unease. None of the adults wanted to go home until they had answers. I could tell the adults wanted to talk more but didn't want to worry the younger cousins. My older cousin Maddie clearly didn't care about anything that was going on. She just wanted to sleep. We convinced her to take my 3 young cousins into the basement so they could all get some sleep. But not me, I was invested. Uncle Matt and I are close. We see each other all the time. How could I not have a shred of evidence that he even existed? As my cousins shuffled downstairs, all the adults huddled around a big whiteboard Aunt Margot slapped on the kitchen island. They started to write down everything they could remember. What he looked like, the last time they saw him, memories of him. None of it was coherent. It seemed he was a completely different person in all our memories. Even if it was a memory where multiple people were around. One of the only things that we could all agree on was that the Jensens always thought he was on the Miller side of the family and the Millers always thought he was on the Jensen side. My mom recalled a story of Matt and my dad going to a lake to fish, but the hook got stuck on Matt's hat and went flying. My dad told us he remembered my mom telling him the same exact story many times. Everyone had memories of stories where he was on the other side of the family. Soon everyone was on the phone with a new family member trying to tell them the situation and asking what they thought about everything. My aunts and uncles were talking to realities on the phone I didn't know I had. Relatives that probably only met Matt a couple times at best. All I heard was one dead end at a time. No one knew where he came from or where he went. So the big question was, who is Matt? Was he just some random guy who weaseled his way into the family? Telling one side of the family one thing and the other side another? Or was it something so much worse? As the sun came up that Saturday morning we were all still scratching our heads. The deeper we got into who Matt was, the more freaked out everyone got. I was honestly surprised they let me stay with them all night long. The more digging everyone did, the farther away we felt. The more rabbit holes we went down, the less real he seemed. We couldn't find any evidence that he ever existed. Some of us searched all over the internet for Matt Jensen, or Matt Miller, and a few of us searched for other last names in the family. Of course, it was kind of hard to know who we were looking for given we didn't know what he really looked like. After hours of discussion, we compiled a list of attributes that never wavered about Uncle Matt. He was a man, he never had a mustache, he was tall, he was bad at math, and he loved Jim Carrey movies. That might seem like a random grouping of facts, but that's because it was. We couldn't even remember where his house was. Some of us completely forgot and others remembered different houses. It didn't matter. We weren't going to start knocking on doors to find a man we were concerned never existed. We started to believe that as soon as we began to question who he was, he just simply started to fade away into nothingness. Like it was some kind of self-destructive on his own consciousness. It was around 9 AM that morning when people started to fall asleep on couches. The night before started with everyone being determined and saying the night wouldn't end until we found Uncle Matt, but here we all were. Exhausted and with little to no answers. It felt like accepting defeat by napping on the couch, but we couldn't do much else. At 11 AM we all woke up to the sound of my cousins playing in the next room over. We all sat up and rubbed our eyes. You could practically see the gears turning in everyone's heads as they woke up from their stupors. I could tell when they realized their memories actually happened and it wasn't just a weird fever dream. My Aunt Margot stumbled to the kitchen while yawning and started to dig in the pantry for something substantial the kids could all eat. It was clear they had already raided the cookie stash. As the adults had a quiet conversation, we heard something come from my cousin Cass that made us freeze. Yeah, remember last night when Uncle Matt gave us all those cookies? It was so much fun. My small cousin said with a hop and a skip. Wait Cass, get over here and say that again. My Uncle Andrew yelled in an attempt to sound intimidating but came out with a voice crack. Cass walked over to us looking like a confused puppy who just got yelled at. What did I do wrong, Uncle Andrew? I thought if Uncle Matt offered us cookies I could have them. Cass, you are not in trouble. This is very important. Are you telling me Uncle Matt was with you guys last night? Uncle Andrew tried to say in a gentle tone to not scare Cass. I mean, not the whole night, but he brought us all cookies and put a movie on for us. Then he said he wanted to go hang out with you guys upstairs. Cass told us with a quiet voice. Everyone started to frantically look around the room, looking for any evidence of him being there last night. We quickly asked the rest of the cousins if they saw Matt, and some kids did and some didn't. I noticed something when I started to count the objects in the room. There were 10 adults and me upstairs last night. So, there should have been 11 people in total, but I saw 12 plates out with the leftover crumbs from our late-night pizza, 12 spots laid out for sleeping in the living room, and 12 mugs or cups of coffee. He was here last night. As I mentioned what I found, my dad said he remembered seeing him last night. He said Matt brought him some water. Uncle Paul said he saw him go to the bathroom but couldn't remember him coming out. They mentioned how it felt like it never actually happened, but he managed to place the memory in them after the fact. How else would they see Uncle Matt right in front of them and not realize what was happening? I had a strange feeling that started to bubble up. I felt uneasy and restless. Wait, something is off here, I said loudly to the room. Everyone line up on the wall, I want to try something. For a second they all looked at me confused. They normally wouldn't let me boss them around like that, but they were desperate and tired. All the adults lined up against the wall. As I walked by, then I counted out loud. Something strange happened. I counted 12 people including me. None of the kids were lined up. I wasn't counting myself twice. There was an extra person. Uncle Matt wasn't just here last night. He was with us in the room at that moment. Other members of the family even tried to count. We did it over and over again. Even adding one of the kids to the mix, but every single time there was one extra person, but we still couldn't see him? How was he hiding in plain sight? Everyone ended up leaving my Aunt Margot's house that afternoon. We were all still extremely creeped out about the whole thing, but what could we do about it? Not much. It's not like Uncle Matt ever did anything violent. Mostly normal behavior except for a few memories of him that were kinda weird. One of us remembered seeing him in the kitchen, stacking and unstacking bowls for hours. Another person remembered him once packing for a vacation, but his suitcase only had trash bags in it. And I have a memory of us sitting in front of a fireplace with him reading the instruction manual to a blender for a bedtime story. At least those were the kind of memories we had in the beginning. As the weeks went on, we started to remember things that got more and more concerning. He showed up in our houses in the middle of the night. Or buying us all hammers for Christmas. He once bought hundreds of dollars worth of knives and put them in my dad's car. Once we developed disturbing memories of him, we tried to tell the police. Of course, they couldn't find any evidence of his existence, so they couldn't help us. It didn't help our case that we couldn't even give them a last name. How on earth are they supposed to find a guy based on his name being Matt and no physical features? So who is Uncle Matt? I can say with 100% certainty, I have no clue. Is he a man? Is he an entity? Is he a figment of our imaginations? Or is he nothing at all? I don't know. And that's the worst part of all. He seems to always be around at family dinners. Most of the time I count the number of people I end up with an extra person. He feels like a virus. Always implanting a memory of himself being around, but in the moment I never see him. It seems to be a family joke at this point. Always leaving out an extra plate for him or something. In my opinion, no one is taking this situation seriously. I know he hasn't hurt anyone, but why should we wait for something to happen? I swear I can feel it when he shows up. The hairs on the back of my neck stand up. My family has given up on trying to figure out who or what Uncle Matt is. But I haven't. It feels like they have all just forgotten the disturbing memories of him. I swear the deeper I dig to find him, the worse the memories get. Like he is rotting and festering in my memories. Right before my eyes. I'm starting to think it's his attempt to stop me from looking for him. The fact that he is punishing me for looking for him makes my concern grow more and more. Why is he suddenly running now that I am on to him? Why is he so afraid of me finding him? And what will happen once I do find him? I will find you, Uncle Matt. I will find out what you are. Conclusion. Although it feels like goosebumps crawling all over the body, it makes people more addicted the more they look at it, and it seems that there are many treasures to dig in the Reddit forum.